Good morning, everyone. Hi. Yes, so before we start and while waiting for our other participants, we'll have some pre-conference activities. First, let's set off with our expectations in this conference. To facilitate this activity, we'll have the Mentimeter to help us gauge your expectations or any of the things you look forward to in our activity. So for our dear participants, we request that you open your browser or use your phone. Just go to www.menti.com. Yes. Then enter the code 500926 5. So again, you may use your browser, your laptop, or your desktop. Open any browser, go to www.menti.com and enter the code 500926 and 5. This will also be available in our chat box in Zoom. You may also use your phones. So to start, let's just have the simple question, what do you look forward to in FSCon 21? So you can enter keywords there or phrases. What do you look forward to learn, to experience in the 21st Faculty Student Conference on Statistical Sciences? Learnings, that's our first expectation. So we can also watch the shared screen for the live updating of our expectations or the things we look forward to. Okay? So you will see there a word cloud. As you enter your expectations, your inputs, you will see how the things there change. Inspiration, that's one of the main takeaways here. Also, fun, of course. We'll have different plenary presentations, that's correct. We'll have lively sessions, either a plenary session or the parallel sessions, different paper presentations where we can really take that inspiration. Statistics, of course.
Right, we also see some people here. Of course, we're going to meet a lot of people,
Mhm.
hopefully learn a lot of statistics lessons as well as some fun experiences.
Yeah, and at the very least, we see this appreciation. And I think that's one also of the things that our participants look forward to. At the very least, we want to appreciate our field, our different disciplines on how we can use them to be relevant in today's society.
That's right. So some more answers are coming in.
It's fun. It's fun to see how the answers update.
Right. So you can also see the size of the word would correspond to the number of people who are giving
Mhm.
that as an answer.
Wow. So the top answer would be lively sessions, inspiration, appreciation. At the very top of it would be lively sessions.
Right.
So good morning.
We can expect some lively sessions from the plenary speakers as well as the speakers from the parallel sessions.
Food, OM. What do you look forward to in episode 21? Food, well, food for thought, I guess.
Yes,
Food for thought,
for sure you will be
inspiration.
full intellectually. So, yes.
Correct. We'll have that. The drive, of course. Some applications, we will see these in the plenary sessions in particular. We have varying fields. As you can see in the souvenir program, you can see our parallel sessions, the use of statistics in certain fields such as agriculture, medical data, in the COVID-19 situation that we have. So yeah, we'll see how vast the applications and how relevant the applications of statistics are.
Right, and of course, we want to engage a lot of people here. So, if you haven't yet, please submit a video of yourselves greeting the
Mm-hmm.
other participants, and as well as giving a message or giving your expectations or your learning experiences through our Flipgrid. Our the chat, the site will be inputted in the chat. So you can go to flipgrid.com/20 21 FSCon to submit your videos. So that
That's
will be our main platform for looking at other videos and submitting videos as well. We look forward to see your videos.
Yeah. And there's a surprise later on. We'll discuss some things about that Flipgrid and our
Right.
online community board. And I think that has been the for the longest time the theme or the challenge rather of FSCon to explore, to engage, to experience. To
Exactly.
explore, so you can explore the different applications. You can explore. You can meet other people in your respective disciplines, shared interests, or even varying insights about a certain topic. To
Yes.
engage with our speakers, with our sessions, and of course to experience everything. As they say, statistics is basically the result of all our experiences. So I think we'll have some relevant and meaningful experiences that we can get in our conference.
I agree. And we look forward to seeing that to fruition.
Hmm, that's exciting. Oh, the top word for today would now be experts. And
Right.
we are proud to have various experts in their respective fields, esteemed uh, statisticians of their own discipline to present in our first plenary sessions. We'll have three here. And of course, in our paper presentations. Okay. So you can instead input your your expectations there, but we can also proceed to some of our next activities in line for this pre-conference activities. We'll have some game, a little game to warm us up.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's exciting.
Yes, this would be entitled Guesstimate. Whoa,
Ooh.
Guesstimate. So why is it called Guesstimate? Well, it's the basic game tool that we have. So I have here. So I'll remove my background so that you can better see it. So I have here a container consisting of sticks. Yes, so sticks. And the main goal would be to estimate how many sticks are there. So that's basically it. So you can see here, I will rotate it. There is our container containing some sticks. The goal, okay, you can go to menti.com and still use the code 500926 5. You will see there, you have to enter your name. Okay, so wow, we now have a lot of players now. As you can see in our shared screen, you have the different icons. You have the Santa Claus, a wolf, some devil, some 8 ball. Those are our participants. Okay.
Maybe I could join also. So I just go to this site and use the
Mhm.
code. All right. So that's the code is 5009265. So you can enter and just enter your name.
All right. And you will have that icon there and enter your name. And you can now input later, we'll start that one where you can input your answers already. What's your guess or estimate on the number of sticks in this container? Yes. So I'll rotate it to have a better feel.
Hmm.
Hmm.
A good ballpark figure for this.
We'll see later about some skills. So we now have a lot of participants. Thank you for joining us. We have the different icons. You can also check if your icon is already in the shared screen.
Lot of different icons.
Later, when we start the quiz, you will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to think and enter your answers.
Wow.
It's not just about getting the correct answer. This is the plot twist. It's not just about inputting the correct answer, but also being a faster one in
Oh,
sending your
right.
answers. So that's part that's included in your score, in our scoring system.
Okay, so it's speed plus accuracy.
Yes,
Oh.
that's true. So we'll start in a while. You will see there your screen in Menti will update. It will ask you to input your answer. Then it will close after 90 seconds. Ready, everyone? Again, for the last rotation. Okay, we'll start now the Menti quiz in 5, 4, Three, two, one. 90 seconds, begin. What's your guess of the number of sticks here in this container? Good luck, everyone. We have a minute. Still have a minute to win it. Last 30 seconds. Go, everyone. You can do that. What's our guess on the number of sticks out there? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Time's up. So our form is now closed, and we will see in a while who got the correct answer. So you can see there all your answers, and the correct one would be 394.
It's
394.
394.
Did anyone get the correct answer? We'll see. Let's check our leaderboard with there.
Have a lot of different values here.
Yeah, we have 124,
Right.
120, 200. I think the closest one I saw would be 350. That's a while ago. So close enough. We'll have 310. Okay, 364. Very close. 480. Oops, that went far. EM is 900 and so on. So we'll see in a while, and we'll inform you if you got the correct answer and if you won in our first game here in FSCon 21. Okay. Oh, according to my calculations, there are some justifications. I like that. So what's so special about this number? What do you think, Zar?
Oh,
394.
394.
Yeah.
What could it be? Is that just a random number? Could it
I
be?
don't think so. I don't think so. I
So
think this
what
was
is it?
specially created. Actually, yeah, I'll share it to you. That signifies our registered participants as of 4 p.m. yesterday. So we
Oh,
expect
we have a
even more
lot.
than that. Okay, so we are actually live and interacting with at least 394 participants from
Wow.
all over the country. Yes, that's correct.
Right.
You
From
heard
all
that
over
right.
the country and all over the world, actually.
Actually, that's the
Right?
plot twist to that.
Yeah.
So from here in your laptops, you get to interact also with other
Right.
people from different parts of the world.
The
That's
perks of having a virtual conference. You have
well,
people from all over the world joining us today. So, yeah, we look forward to meet all of you. So we hope that you could join the Flipgrid. So that would be our social channel.
correct. So just you can also read your reminders to the participants for the Flipgrid guidelines.
Okay, maybe we can have another game.
That's interesting. What
Let's
can be
have
another
another
game?
game. Maybe we can have some raffle,
Oh my
a raffle
god!
draw.
I think everyone will be awake now for that
Yeah,
raffle draw.
yes, waiting for their names to come up. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's have that. Let's have our raffle.
Let's try our luck. So how do we facilitate this raffle?
All right, so for this raffle, we have our raffle drawer, our picker. So all of the names of the 394 participants were inputted in this randomization drawer, and we're going to pick two winners. Two winners. And we can start. So let's have our first draw for
Good
the
luck,
day.
everyone. Good luck.
Wow! Congratulations, Joynabel Paragison. So you are our first winner for the day. So
Congratulations.
we'll be taking note of your name and we will be contacting you regarding the giving of the prize. Let's have another draw. So we're kind of feeling this vibe of just having everyone energized. So let's have another winner.
I think everyone's awake now. The keyword there is raffle.
I hope this is me. I hope this is me.
Oh,
Okay. Our second winner is Mr. Jacob Hizon. Okay, again, we'll take note of your name and we'll be contacting you so that you can claim your prize. All right.
congratulations, Jacob.
So this is a good time to remind you that all throughout the conference, we'll be having more raffle draw rounds. So we can just wait and we can win some exciting
Oh
prizes.
my god, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
Right. So yeah, we will have more rounds of raffle.
Soon.
Yes. So let's just wait for that. Let's stand by for that. For
Mhm.
now, let's have another round of games.
Oh my god, that's exciting. What's our next game, Dar?
Maybe you can prepare your menti.com again.
Mm-hmm.
So prepare your browsers, go to menti.com. But I need to remind you for this game, what we have to do now is when you're inputting your names, so make sure that you input your first name and your last name and put your affiliation in parentheses so that we can easily contact you for the prizes.
All right. So that an
Okay?
example would be GN parenthesis UPSS close parenthesis.
Right. So don't forget your last name also. So
Yeah.
yes, your first name, your last name, and then your affiliation or your university. Okay? Oh, a lot of people are joining in.
I saw something question one of two. What was this game, Zar? Why is there
Hmm.
a question one out of two?
So for this round of our games, we will have a trivia game. So the topics in general may include general knowledge
Mm-hmm.
or your math knowledge.
Oh my
Can be
god.
also your stat knowledge.
Did we sign up for this? I guess so. This is FFCon, so you have to be ready.
Right. Okay, so we have a lot of people now, so we can start with the first question.
Good luck, everyone. This is exciting.
All right, the first question. So again, accuracy and speed is the key.
Mhm.
Florence Nightingale was a British nurse and social reformer. She was the foundational philosopher of modern nursing, and she was the first woman to be awarded with the Order of Merit in 1907. Moreover, she is one of the most prominent statisticians famous for her work in data visualization. During the Crimean War, she gained what nickname from the Times? We
Florence
have several
Nightingale.
choices here, so you can just choose which one could be the correct answer.
Hmm. Interesting choices.
Hmm,
Zar, the woman with the gentle hand, the phenomenal woman, the
which could
mother
it
of music,
be?
dame of great fervor, lady with a lamp, iron lass.
Last 10 seconds to
Oh my
input your
god.
answers.
Good luck, everyone.
What could the answer be?
Okay, time's up.
Wow, okay, so we have different answers. So, and the correct answer is lady with the lamp.
Hmm.
So, during the Crimean War, the Times gave this nickname to Florence Nightingale. And just a quick trivia about this. So, why was she called the Lady with the Lamp? So,
Mm-hmm.
she was a nurse by profession.
All
And
right.
during the war, as she was taking care of the war heroes,
Mm-hmm.
then she would need to go her rounds in the middle of the night
In the
with
middle
a
of the night.
lamp in hand. That's why she was called Lady with a Lamp.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there. So let's check the leaderboard.
Wow. So Florence Nightingale was a statistician, right? In addition to being a nurse.
Yes, yes. And
Hmm.
she's famous for data visualization.
That's nice. That's nice. Things we learn. Things we learn.
Right. Okay. With that in mind, let's check the leaderboard.
I think we have 37 participants who got the correct answer. Good job,
Wow.
guys.
Good job. For those of you who weren't able to join this round, there will still be some other rounds for trivia games. So watch out for that also. So we'll have raffle. We will have this also.
Mm-hmm.
So
You can
yeah.
see the leaderboard now.
Okay. So we see in the lead with 897 points
Mm-hmm.
is Roger from UPSS, followed by Mama Joy from Instat.
Congrats, ma'am.
There's. Let's have another question.
So this can change. This can
Okay.
change.
So we'll have the next question in our next gap. So for that round, all your scores will be carried over. The good thing about Menti is that you will be able to go back to the to that code as long as you still use that code, okay? And we'll flash that later on.
All right. So they cannot be complacent, right? Things can change with our next questions. A lot can change, actually.
All right. So again, before we start with the formal program, we just want to remind you of some house rules that we need to follow.
Again, please be mindful of your language. Always refrain from using profanity and homophobic, transphobic, or xenophobic remarks. We do not condone such behavior. Be respectful to the other participants. Please wait for the current participant to finish his or her question before stating yours. It is advisable to use the raise hand feature of the learning platform if available and wait until the host or moderator acknowledges it.
Please log in on time for the scheduled sessions. If you can, please try to log in early and check if there is a problem with your connection, which might negatively impact your virtual conference experience. We will start promptly out of respect for everyone's time.
Please choose an environment with as minimal distractions as possible. Keep your phone on silent mode for the duration of the sessions. Mute your microphone when you are not speaking to minimize outside noise.
Participants may use the Zoom background available in the Google Drive folder.
The contributed sessions will accommodate participants on a first come, first served basis policy. Please identify the session you prefer to attend and check the corresponding Zoom link available in the souvenir program found in your conference kit.
All right, so to start our program, we will have the doxology to be followed by the singing of the Philippine national anthem.
What fortune lies beyond the stars? Those dazzling heights too fast to climb. I got so hard to fall so far, but I found heaven as love swept low. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I
kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, pero sa silananan, alam ng puso, sa litig mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuyagan ang magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nalagang tulog sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay tinagang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawag mo'y tagumpay na nag-iinit, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magtitinig. Luman ang araw ng walhaging pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming bigaya ng pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Again, a pleasant morning to all of you. My name is Gian,
And I am Zareen.
and welcome to the 21st Faculty Student Conference on Statistical Sciences.
With the theme, Statistics in the Digital Age, Leaving No One Behind.
Yes, isang magandang morning sa ating lahat. Wow, mula Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, at ibang bahagi.
And worldwide.
Yun na nga.
Diba?
Very radio program tayo tuloy doon na parang magandang morning sa ating lahat. So again, welcome po sa ating lahat in the 21st Faculty Student Conference. To start our program and to give his welcoming remarks, may we call on the Dean of the UP School of Statistics, Dr. Joseph Ryan Densan.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Dean.
Morning po.
Good morning,
Morning.
sir.
Yeah, in behalf of the organizers, I am pleased to welcome you all to the 21st Faculty Student Conference on the Statistical Sciences. We are delighted to have you all participate in this first ever online FSCon. This year, our theme is on the relevance of statistics in the digital age and its role in helping our nation towards sustainable, equitable, and shared progress for all segments of our society. Given the current COVID-19 pandemic, data and statistics have become the focus of public attention. Data collection, data access, data sharing, analysis, presentation, and use of statistics, data science, and evidence-based decision-making have engaged everyone in many conversations about issues on social justice, poverty, public health, governance, and development, among others. Our gathering, albeit virtual, is indeed more relevant. And there has been a strong response to our invitation. There are nearly 470 of you who pre-registered for this virtual event. Our aim for this conference is to bring together members of the statistics community and provide a venue for knowledge sharing or discussion on several research studies, as well as to promote understanding and advancement of statistics. The conference is also part of the celebration of the 31st National Statistics Month. This year's FSCon is structured around 3 plenary sessions with 7 plenary talks and 8 parallel sessions with 16 contributed papers. So prepare yourselves to be excited, challenged, and inspired from today until tomorrow. We are honored to have Undersecretary, National Statistician, and Civil Registrar General, Dr. Claire Dennis Mapa, to give us later an inspirational message. And for our plenary talks, we are privileged to have with us esteemed Filipino statisticians, Dr. Roberto Mariano of University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Grace Montepiedra of Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, Dr. Edsel Peña of University of South California, Dr. Arturo Martinez Jr. and Mr. Joseph Bulan of Asian Development Bank, Ms. Jessamine Encarnacion and Ms. Rhea Jean Tabaco of UN Women, Dr. Hernando Ombao of King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, and Dr. Josefina Almeda of Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute. Again, to our panelists and plenary speakers, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. For the 16 accepted papers for the contributed sessions, we have contributions from faculty members, graduate students, and undergraduate students. Their topics vary from use of health and medical data, agricultural data, administrative data, meta-analytic data, multivariate data, experimental data, big data, and of course, COVID-19 related data. To all our paper contributors, thank you very much for your presentations. And to those shortlisted for the Best Student Paper Awards, congratulations. The best papers will be announced tomorrow afternoon. We have also provided different venues and opportunities for all of you to explore, engage, and experience this virtual event. There are no face-to-face interactions, but you may still maximize the opportunity to network with the speakers and other attendees. To encourage engaging online interactions, we have an open space in Flipgrid where you can upload a video message and you may comment or like video messages of your co-participants. And to make things more exciting, we also have a Flipgrid competition. So check your email or review the conference kit for details and other information. I am most grateful for your participation and support. I hope you will have fruitful and rewarding experiences today and tomorrow. I look forward to meeting you in the different sessions and other online activities. Again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you.
Yes, indeed, sir, statistics is relevant. We have the power as statisticians or with our own fields. We have the power, and as the saying goes, with every great power comes great responsibility. And this responsibility would be to leave no one behind, to adapt
Right.
in our pandemic situation. We in the digital age, we leave no one behind through while harnessing the power of statistics.
That's right. And this conference is just one avenue for us to be able to do this, to be able to highlight the importance of statistics across all opportunities.
Right.
And as we harness the power of statistics, as you have said. So, and we also know that, as Sir Lance has said, we have a lot to look forward to in this conference. We have the different plenary speeches. We also have the parallel sessions, different
Right.
presentations. We also have some more interactions from the different people, different statisticians from all over the world.
Right.
So yeah, so just to have a quick preview,
We have
we
the
have the
raffle.
following. We have the following schedule. So just to remind you, so for day one, that's today, we have the opening ceremony happening right now. After this, immediately after this, we'll have the first plenary session. We have 3 speakers for that. Then we'll have a short coffee break. Then we go to the breakout sessions. That's parallel session 1. And then we'll have a wrap up session afterwards. So make sure to go back to this webinar after the first parallel session. For day 2, we have some activities prepared for you. If you come in early at 8:45 up to 9, we'll have some activities. And then we'll have the second plenary session. We'll have 2 more speakers for that session. And then followed by the second parallel session. We have 3 sessions for that. Then next, the third parallel session. That's 2 sessions. And then we'll have a quick lunch break. For the lunch break, we have something prepared for you. So
That's exciting, Zar. We have for tomorrow.
hopefully you could enjoy something. For those of you who enjoy listening to podcasts or vidcasts or actually even vlogs,
Vlogging, right?
right? Or mukbang videos.
Mhm.
If you
Getting
enjoy
closer.
if you enjoy that, then you might enjoy the lunch break also. We have some guests.
Some guests, yes. Something to look forward to tomorrow.
Right. So we'll have that for the lunch break. And then after that, after the lunch break, we'll have the third plenary session. Again, we have 2 speakers for that. And then we have the coffee break. And then after the coffee break, we'll have our closing ceremony.
Correct. Where we can award, right, the winners of the flip grid competition.
Right?
We have that.
As well as the announcing of the winners of the most awaited BUSPA competition,
Correct. The best
or
student.
actually the
paper
best
award.
paper awards.
Correct.
Right. Okay, so now that we've given you a preview of what will happen for the 2 days of our conference, let's take a moment to look back at some of the highlights of the previous conferences. Please enjoy this audiovisual presentation.
that's heartwarming. Some little throwback with our past FS on. And
Yeah, so
yes,
nostalgic.
very nostalgic. And yes, we miss one another. That's correct. What you feel now, yes. Oh, we miss one another. We miss going out to see our friends, our colleagues, our different workmates and friends. So yes, that's how we feel.
Yeah,
but with the
and I
current
agree.
situation, we have to adapt to be also be safe and to respond to this challenge. We're still having this online conference again to advance our field, to see how relevant again our field, and even in this time of pandemic.
Right. And I like how they always remind us that we need to stay at home right now so that if we
Mhm.
gather again, we're complete. And I find that really, really reassuring. And I appreciate that a lot. And that's true. We need to be safe so
Correct.
that when we gather again, we are complete.
And this too shall pass. That's nice. At least that's nice to be. We're reminded of that fact.
Yeah. Okay. So before we proceed, so let's have another round of Menti.
Is this the game show, the trivia quiz show?
Yes, it's the
Oh,
trivia game.
fun.
So
I like
use the
this.
same code, right? You use the same code. We'll have the second question.
It's time to boost our scores.
Okay, so bring out your browsers again. So we
Or
have
your
our
phone.
first. For this first round, we will be awarding the first five. So the top five will get your names and will contact you for your prizes.
Good luck, everyone. So exciting prizes await.
So for this second question, what could
Hmm.
be the topic? So we have,
The
um,
first one was about statistics related question, right?
right, because Florence Nightingale is a famous statistician.
All
So
right.
how about the second one?
Hmm. Maybe it's about
What do
another
you think?
general knowledge question,
Maybe that
or
could be.
maybe about digital age.
Oh,
Something about
maybe.
that. We'll
Maybe
see.
we
We'll
could
see.
whip something up.
Hmm. We are
Use
prepared
our
for that, for that
knowledge.
randomness. We're always prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
To decide in the face of uncertainty. Exciting.
Okay.
Ready your
So ready?
phones?
Yes. Yes. Just go to Menti and use the same code.
I think it's a
Oh,
different
okay.
code
So you
now.
need to use a different code. The
All
code
right.
now is 3143 651. Again, don't forget your first name and your last name and your affiliation so we can identify you correctly. Again, the code is 3143 651.
3, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5, 1. Play song. So you can also see in the chat box, you can see the code there if you weren't able to hear it a while ago.
Okay, let's start.
Good luck, everyone.
Data from cable.co.uk says that Taiwan and Singapore lead the list of countries in terms of internet speed in 2019, with mean download speeds of 85.02 and 70.86 Mbps, respectively. Meanwhile, the mean download speed in the Philippines is 6.05 Mbps. What rank does the Philippines hold in this list? From cable.co.uk.
Mhm.
Oh,
I think
look
this
at
is
that
top five.
distribution. Look at that distribution. So a lot of people answered the middle choice, right? Okay, but the correct answer is 97. So
Mm-hmm.
in that list from cable.co.uk, we are the Philippines is ranked 97th in terms of internet speed with an average of 6.05 Mbps. So I know not a lot of people are able to experience that speed,
Yeah, and I think
especially
that
now.
explains the many guesses in 118.
Right, right. So people just assume that it was
It's a little lower.
a little lower, yeah. But it's
Correct.
it's actually 97. Okay, let's check the leaderboard.
I think we have the top five because there are five respondents who answered it correctly.
Wow. Okay, so we have the top five, the five who got correctly. And in terms of the speed, so there are variations in terms of the speed. So yeah. Okay. So we have noted your names. Sorry for Earthman. I'm not sure if we would be able to identify you, but at least for the first four, we'll be able to contact you for the prizes.
So reminder again to put our affiliation, our university, so that we may contact you and provide the link or the reminders about your prizes. But good job, Earthman. You got it correctly.
Okay. So now we are lucky to have the proponent of this conference. Um,
Right?
okay, before that, so we just want to tease you a bit of what's
Why
in
are we
store.
lucky? Yeah.
Right. So maybe we can have another round of raffle.
Why
Okay.
not? To energize because I can't feel the energy yet from our participants.
Right, right. We
Maybe that's
need
because
more
of the
energy.
because that's of the mute function, I guess.
Yeah, probably. But I hope you're feeling this
Yes, in your
vibe.
own homes, in the safety of your own homes, you're excited. You want to win. Let's feel that energy.
Okay. And as you know, this year the host for the faculty student conference is UP Diliman.
Hmm.
But we are not alone in this.
We leave
One
no one
of
behind, right,
Yes,
Lar?
yes. Right. One of the partners of this year's conference is the UPLB Institute of Statistics. So
Hmm.
for this round of raffle, we'll call on a special guest from UPLB
Wow.
Instat.
Thank you, Instat.
Let's call on Mami Au, and she will host this round for the raffle.
Why not? Good luck.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ma'am Zara. Good morning, Sir Gian.
Good morning, Mamiao.
Let me just give a short shout out to my beloved colleagues from Institute of Statistics. Hi, guys. So, let me just say, uh, SS Con, or the SS Con would be without a special appearance.
Mami Au, maybe you could make your voice a little louder so we can appreciate your voice.
Or check the microphone settings.
Yes, hello.
Still the
Maybe a
same.
little bit
Still the
more.
same,
Maybe a little bit
ma'am.
more.
Hello, everyone. Can you
Still
guys
the
hear
same,
me?
ma'am.
I guess I'm having problems with my. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, it's the same volume. I think you can make it closer,
Hello.
better. Going
Okay.
there, going there.
Okay, I'm sorry having difficulties with my microphone, but can you guys hear me? Clearly? Or still a bit?
Still a bit. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So I guess, hello everyone. Mic test. Hello everyone.
Oh,
Better,
that's better.
better.
That's
Okay.
better.
All
I don't know
right.
One of
what's
the
wrong. I didn't do
struggles.
anything.
Hmm.
Anyway, so let me just say, FS Fun would be complete without the presence of her royal gorgeousness. So for the past few years, I've always been invited to do something. So you're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. Anyway,
We
so
thank
don't
you.
pick
We
a
thank you for
random.
accepting
We
our
are lucky.
invitation. As
We are
always. As
lucky.
always.
Of course, you've been graced by the presence of the most
Were
gorgeous
you
human
there in
being.
the first EPISCon?
The first
Gian, I'm
ever
not that
I'm just
faculty
old.
kidding.
conference. Were you there?
Were you there? I think that's 19 something.
Wow, thank you so much. No, I'm not that old.
Go
But for
on,
the
go
past
on.
4 years, I guess.
All
Anyway,
right.
so let's start with the raffle. So, random generator, please go ahead.
Oh my god.
Exciting. Oh my gosh. I hope it's me.
Not
Oh, it's not.
yet.
Congratulations! I'm not sure if it's a Miss or a Mister, but Milburn Macalos. So please contact us for you. We will contact you.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay,
correct.
for you to be able to get your prize. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
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 Maybe we can have
Okay,
another
another
winner.
one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So random generator, start.
Mm-hmm. I see some names. I see some names.
Congratulations, Mr. Marco Lopez.
Wow,
The winner.
congratulations.
Okay. So congratulations to the winners. We will just contact you.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. And thank you, Meow, for that grace, that presence, for
Yes,
giving us that
yes,
one.
of course.
Yes, and I think the next episode sessions are looking forward to your participation again. We look forward to that one.
Thank you very much. See, we have guests even for the raffle.
Mhm. Surprising.
Stand by for more rounds of raffle and more rounds of trivia game.
Mhm. So what else is in store for us, Zar?
All right. All right, I'm back. Okay. So, for
Mhm.
our next part of the program, we are graced by the presence of the proponent of this faculty conference and here to give his inspirational message is our civil registrar and national statistician, Claire Dennis Mapa.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope you're okay. To our Dean, Dr. Joseph Ryan Lansangan of the UP School of Statistics, the Director of the Institute of Statistics, Dr. Lisa Comia, of course, Dr. Josie Almeda, the Executive Director of the Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute, the Vice President of the University of the Philippines, former National Statistician, Dr. Lisa Bersales, my esteemed colleagues, faculty members, students, and fellow researchers, a pleasant morning to all. I am happy to join you in this 21st Faculty Student Conference on Statistical Sciences. First, I would like to congratulate the organizers, the UP School of Statistics, together with the INSTAT and PSRTI, for organizing the 21st Faculty Student Conference on the Statistical Sciences. I am very glad that despite the restrictions, we are able to conduct our conference virtually. Although this is the first time, I see it as a stepping stone towards technology revolution. Experiencing this kind of setup in an optimistic way actually opens more opportunities as we expand the reach of our conference. I heard the discussion on of our host on the first conference, so I'd like to give some background on the origin of our conference for the benefit of our young colleagues, young researchers who are here. Looking back, our conference had humble beginnings. The start of the conference actually was in 1998 at the fourth floor of the College of Business Administration building, now the Berata School of Business. That was the former UP Statistical Center floor, no, the fourth floor and the fifth floor. With a handful of papers, I remembered that there were about 10 papers that were presented during that very first conference and relatively very few participants. However, since 1998, I have been part of this conference every year, perhaps except an apologies last year when I failed to join the conference, and I saw its transformation into a highly successful national conference for faculty, undergraduate, and graduate students of statistics and related fields. One of the defining moments in the history of this conference happened in 2003 when the Institute of Statistics of the UPLB joined the UP School of Statistics to alternately host the conference, with INSTAT hosting during odd years and the UP School of Statistics during even years. And the success of our conference is attributed to the genuine and strong commitment of three institutions: the UP School of Statistics, the University of the Philippines Los Baños Institute of Statistics, and the Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute, which are dedicated to continuous research and development in statistics and related fields. Our conference provides a venue for students and faculty members to present their research outputs, at the same time polish their papers in preparation for submission to international conferences and academic journals. And I have seen in the past years excellent student papers presented in this conference, and after revision were published in local and international academic and professional journals. And I would like to acknowledge the participation and support of the faculty members who are coaching and mentoring our young researchers, our undergraduate and graduate students. And I hope that you will continue mentoring our students so that they can actually produce best papers. You know, in the book, The 7 Pillars of Statistical Wisdom by Professor Stephen Stigler, he argued that statistics is not a field that feeds on itself, but rather deals with quantitative questions in various fields of studies, such as the social sciences, economics, health, medicine, natural sciences, environment, and the like. This makes our discipline of statistics very unique. Our conference theme, Statistics in the Digital Age, Leaving No One Behind, is appropriate to this uniqueness of statistics. Our discipline will always play a very important role in the area of policy making, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. As people demand evidence-based decision-making process, statistics will be there to play this critical role. The Philippine Statistics Authority is one with you in working towards achieving our 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to make sure that indeed no one is left behind. Now, at this point, let me take this opportunity to introduce my agency, the Philippine Statistics Authority. Of course, I am still professor of the UP School of Statistics, seconded to the Philippine Statistics Authority. And you are all aware that the PSA is the central statistical authority of the Philippine government. And in addition to these important responsibilities of generating and publishing official statistics, the PSA was given greater scope in its mandate as we now begin implementation of the Philippine Identification System, or what we refer to as the National ID, as well as the synchronization of the conduct of the Community-Based Monitoring System, or the CBMS. The Philippine Statistics Authority operations are expanding, and we are looking for individuals with fresh ideas that can offer a multifaceted approach in analyzing statistical data. And where can you get these talented individuals but here in this conference from UP School of Statistics, Institute of Statistics, De La Salle University, Central Luzon State University, and other universities who are joining this conference. It is my hope that conferences like this will inspire students to conduct research using official statistics of the Philippine Statistics Authority, which, by the way, we share for free, and explore the possibility of being part of the PSA. If you have fascination in analyzing data, and I'm sure you are, the Philippine Statistics Authority is the right place for you. We cover all economic sectors and offer a wide array of experience to our personnel. Right now, you know, the very important research because of this COVID pandemic are related to our vital statistics, our death statistics, births, and marriages. Do you know that the number of marriages reported from January to August this year is just about 120,000? Only 120,000 couples got married in the last 8 months of 2020. Compare that to about 450,000 in the same period last year. So there are interesting information and research topics that can be generated by using the vital statistics of the Philippine Statistics Authority. And I encourage our students, our researchers, to please use this data to be able to provide evidence-based policy guidance to our policymakers and decision makers. Also, we cover gender statistics, the Philippine Statistics Authority indeed offers a broad education to all fresh graduates who we are heartily welcoming in the agency. Franklin Roosevelt, the President of the United States, once said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." And you, our young researchers, you are the future. And I would like to thank each one of you who are here participating in this virtual conference to celebrate our 21st Faculty Student Conference on the Statistical Sciences. May this event ignite your passion to innovate, do more research, and enhance your capabilities in statistics. Thank you very much. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much, NS Mapa, and thank you for reminding us of our humble beginnings.
Right.
And it's just a reminder that to move forward, we need to look back on our roots, reclaim our narrative in the present, and together move forward to the future.
Then thank you very much, NS Mapa. The next part of today's program is the plenary session, the first plenary session. But first, we introduce our moderator for the first plenary session. Our first plenary moderator is a professor at the UP Diliman School of Statistics. She obtained her BS, cum laude, MS, and PhD in statistics from UP Diliman Statistical Center, now School of Statistics, in 1978, 1981, and 1989, respectively. She was appointed by President Benigno Aquino III as the first national statistician to head the Philippine Statistics Authority. She served as UP Vice President for Planning and Finance from February 2011 until her appointment as PSA head. And now, after her term as the first national statistician, she's back as the UP VP for Planning and Finance. She also served as the Dean of School of Statistics thrice. Her first term was from 1996 to 1998, and the second and third terms from 2002 to 2005 and 2005 to 2008, respectively. She held professorial chair awards, namely the 2013 Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas UP Centennial Professorial Chair, the UPD Centennial Professorial Chair from 2011 to 2012, BSP Sterling Professorial Chair on Government and Official Statistics from 2009 to 2010, and the UP Roberto Cuyito Professor of Statistics. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our plenary moderator, Dr. Lisa Grace S. Bersales.
Thank you very much, Cha. It is my pleasure to serve as moderator of the first plenary session for our conference today, Statistics in the Digital Age, Leaving No One Behind. If I may add, also leaving no Juana behind. Our plenary session, the first one, if I will give it a name or a title, it will be the statistics profession in the digital age, hearing from the masters. And we have three masters with us today. I will introduce them to you later. May I, as moderator, give some of our guidelines for our plenary session. The audience is requested to reserve Q&A in the Q&A forum, your questions. So our masters will do their presentations first, and then I will open the floor for question and answer. So please, as you listen to our three speakers, write down your questions so you don't forget. Please refrain from interrupting the plenary speakers while the presentations are ongoing. And please, audience, put our devices on mute and unmute yourself when I call on you when we do our Q&A. The audience is requested to use the raise hand feature of Zoom, whom I believe everyone is already very good at now. to facilitate the Q&A forum in an orderly manner. We also request that you use the chat feature of Zoom to relay your questions. We have a Q&A chat feature for the Zoom there. When you look at your Zoom at the lower right hand area. Whether asking uh, the question live or relaying the question via the chat box, the audience is requested to use the following format when asking questions. Please write your name, your institution, agency, or university, and ask your question. Please, when you write your question or you ask your question, please be direct in asking your question. So I mentioned to you earlier that we have three masters that will talk to us about their experiences in their profession in that particular uh, uh, specific area of statistics that they decided to be in. Our first speaker, the first master we will listen to, is Dr. Roberto S. Mariano of the University of Pennsylvania, and he will talk about statistics as a profession in the Philippines, diverse applications, boundless opportunities. You will notice that Dr. Mariano is actually based in Philadelphia with the University of Pennsylvania, but he will talk about opportunities in the Philippines. And this is because he has never really left the Philippines. Dr. Mariano has been with the University of Pennsylvania faculty since 1971, at one point serving as undergraduate chair in the Department of Economics. He also is now a professor emeritus at the Singapore Management University, where he served from 2002 to 2010 as founding dean of the School of Economics, vice provost for research, and founding director of the Sim Ki Boon Institute for Financial Economics. He is a fellow of the Econometric Society and has served on the Executive Council of the Econometric Society, representing Southeast and South Asia. He has also served in the Governing Council of the International Association for Statistical Computing in the International Statistical Institute. His service on editorial boards of academic journals in economics and statistics include the Journal of the American Statistical Association, International Economic Review, and Economic Theory. With a focus on econometric methods and applications, he has been a consultant to multinational institutions here in Asia and in the United States, and specifically here in the Philippines, where he has consulted with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Philippine Institute for Development Studies, and the National Economic and Development Authority. What did he do for those institutions? He developed econometric models for macroeconomic financial forecasting and policy analysis, and trained in-house staff in applied econometric methodology. Through these consultancies, he has helped develop many of econometric models now being used by our planning and central bank for policy. He serves currently on BSP's Research Experts Panel, an international advisory body for the institutional research program of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. He also served as a principal investigator in a number of research projects funded by major institutions, including the UNDP, the US National Science Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, and Asian Development Bank. He has published several journal articles, and his paper with Diebold, comparing predictive accuracy, which introduces the Diebold-Mariano test for equal forecast accuracy, ranks high in the list of most cited papers in economics. He's currently working in the area of mixed frequency forecasting and nowcasting as well as contemporary econometric modeling issues for policy making in the Philippines. I would like to add that he was my dissertation advisor, something I'm very proud of. So I would like now to call on Dr. Roberto S. Mariano. Sir Bobby. Dr. Mariano.
There we go. I'm trying to, I
Sir.
just unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's good seeing you. And thank you very much for that very generous introduction. That takes care of my presentation. That's what I was going to talk about.
We want to hear it from your own lips, sir.
But I would like also to thank the organizers for the invitation to participate in this conference. For today, I'm going to make a presentation which is very unusual. There are no formulas, and I'm not going to use any PowerPoint slides or anything, and just be doing some storytelling. And just looking at the conference program, we can see that it's an exciting time in the world of statistics, with expanding, challenging frontiers for research in statistical methodology and applications. Not only is it now certified as a cool and sexy profession, but statisticians are also well loved. A major pharmaceutical executive remarked recently, "I absolutely fell in love with statisticians. Any real world problem almost always is going to require some data to be analyzed and interpreted, generating value-added solutions by using statistics." Today, I would like to share with you some highlights and impressions of my own journey in studying statistics and applying it as an econometrician. I had no inkling in 1962, when I was first introduced to statistics, that it would evolve into such a dynamic and path-breaking profession as we see it today. At that time, statistics was firmly in the world of mathematics. Today, I want to share some of my story in the world of statistics, a journey of almost 60 years that started when I was a senior at the Ateneo de Manila. I was an engineering major for the first 3 years and decided in my senior year to switch to a newly introduced mathematics degree program. In order to graduate on time, I was required to write an undergraduate thesis. It seemed easy enough. After all, it's just like writing a long-term paper. But there were challenges, and as the second semester started, I still had no topic. One idle afternoon, as I browsed through books in the main library, in the math library, I found two interesting ones: an introductory textbook on probability theory by Mosteller and O'Rourke, and a thin paperback by Girolamo Cardano called The Book on Games of Chance. I was attracted to these books because I thought they would talk about gambling strategies. Instead, they turned out to be my first encounter with probability theory as a mathematical subject, because you see, there were no courses offered at the Ateneo at that time on probability and statistics. As a matter of fact, I only had a couple of courses beyond advanced calculus, as there was no one in the Ateneo faculty to teach more advanced courses until the university managed to hire Dr. Federico Sioson during my senior year. This was a serendipitous turn of events for me, as Dr. Sioson's arrival at the Ateneo was my only opportunity to learn abstract math through his courses in set theory, foundations of mathematical analysis, and introductory topology. On that one lazy afternoon in the math library, engrossed with these two books, not knowing that my whole lifetime professional career was being mapped out for me. Mosteller et al. Was very readable, an excellent introduction to probability theory and its applications for an undergrad math major like myself. Cardano's pamphlet of a treatise was a bit more difficult and obtuse, but equally interesting and very short. So I was to find out much later on that this thin pamphlet, which got published actually first in Latin in 1663, 140 years after the author wrote it in 1520, but that book is now considered by scientific historians as the first effort ever to formulate important mathematical ideas concerning the axiomatization of probability. As I quickly read through these two books, actually skimmed is a more appropriate term, what impressed me most was first, the study of probability had its beginnings in the professional experiences of inveterate gamblers like Cardano. And second, the axiomatization of probability theory, which Mosteller et al. Laid out so nicely and simply through concrete examples in gambling, turned out to be easy reading for me at that junction, since it was a good illustration of what I was learning in my courses, especially the foundations course that I could relate to. That gave me an idea, which turned out to be my long elusive thesis topic. Right then and there, I was inspired to set up an alternative axiomatization of probability theory, and I took my first step into the world of probability and statistics. I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing. I was 18 years old and eager to finish degree requirements. This first step inspired me to write my undergraduate thesis on, and the title was Foundations of Finite Conditional Probability, which appeared in the Philippine Statistician in 1962, and that turned out to be my first ever journal publication. That was my first foray into the world of statistics through the mathematical channels of learning probability theory. I never thought of it then as a defining tipping point for my professional career. For after all, my goal was very short term, satisfy the thesis requirements so I can graduate. And that dalliance with probability theory would have ended there and led to nowhere, except for another serendipitous event involving Dr. Shawson. Shortly after graduation, whiling away idle time on a Sunday evening in farmer's market in Cubao, before starting work in IBM the following day, I accidentally ran into Dr. Shawson, an eventful chance meeting, indeed, one for the record books, because this really changed my professional life altogether. Best to quote an earlier recounting of the chance meeting, as I reported it in my talk at the 50th anniversary celebration of UPSS many years ago, at the invitation of Lisa Versales, actually. Bobby, Dr. Shawson asked when he saw me in Cubao, "What are you going to do now?" When I told him proudly, I might add, that I will start working at IBM the following day, he said, "No way, that's not for you. You should get your PhD in math." But sir, I said, I really want to do something applied. And he retorted right away, "Okay, tomorrow, don't go to IBM, come with me instead to where you belong." I couldn't say no. Dr. Shawson knew more than I at that time what was best for me. And I was a young, good boy. And I learned my first lesson about the importance of mentoring. Of course, that totally unscheduled chance meeting with Dr. Shawson completely changed the direction of my professional pursuits. He took me to the UP Statistical Center in Padre Paura, which up to that point I didn't even know existed. and convinced Dr. Cristina Parel to admit me to the MS program in statistics. How quickly she acceded to Dr. Shoson's request is a testimony to the strong bond in the small circle of mathematicians and statisticians in the Philippines then. I did not have to take any test or go through any interviews. Dr. Shoson's word was it. After admitting me to the program, Dr. Parel asked me, by the way, what courses in statistics did you take at the Ateneo? You should have seen the consternation on her face when I said, none, ma'am. There were no statistics courses at the Ateneo then. But she quickly recovered and told me, okay, conditional admit na lang, subject to your passing Statistics 101 this summer. By sheer luck, my teacher in the course happened to be Dr. Tito Mijares, who had just returned from the doctoral studies in Harvard. I couldn't have had a better teacher for my first course in statistics. So this was my introduction to the foundational leaders of statistics in the Philippines. And I could see their leadership and guidance that would nourish the development of the discipline. Lesson number one from this experience was that inspiration pops up in unexpected places. Be open to opportunities. I call these serendipitous moments. Our mentors are so important. At the UP Stat Center, I had the good fortune of learning from the founding professors. Energetic collegial group, most with PhDs. Dr. Tito Mijares in mathematical statistics, Dr. Domingo Alonso in probability, Cristina Parel, Dr. Cristina Parel in surveys and sampling designs, Dr. Patnaik, the last of the UNDP visiting professors in statistical quality control, and Mr. Pete Macanas in statistical operations. Learning statistical operations from Pete Macanas was a wonderful eye-opener for a theoretician like me. There was a lot of theorizing which I thoroughly enjoyed in all my other courses. And Pete's course provided a good counterbalance with practical and operational insights on what it takes to be a good statistician, especially in mounting a demographic economic survey of Rizal. To this date, I value this course with as much weight as my other foundation courses in the MS program. So at the UP Statistical Center, I had the good fortune of being mentored so expertly by Dr. Mijares, as he provided not only academic expertise, but also warm friendship. And I remember distinctly his dogged insistence that I must complete my master's thesis and get my MS Stat degree from UP before I go to the US for my PhD. Another important lesson in life, the value of truly finishing an enterprise once begun. Dr. Mijares would remind me constantly, hindi ka makakaalis hanggang hindi ka patapos sa thesis mo. I happened to be fascinated at that time by continued fraction expansions and completed a thesis on this topic. In ways that can only be understood with time and reflection, my experience as a graduate student at the UP Statistical Center set me firmly on the path of an exciting and satisfying professional career. With my thesis out of the way, Dr. Mijares introduced me to Dr. Agustin Quintanar at the UP School of Economics, and I was recruited to join economics before I left for graduate studies in the United States. So that's how a pure math undergraduate major who went into statistics ended up doing economics. I started graduate students at the University of Illinois for a year, where I received a master's degree in mathematics before I went to Stanford for my PhD in statistics. At the end of my coursework at Stanford, it was difficult to find a dissertation advisor who focused on econometrics. Again, serendipity played a role when T.W. Anderson was lured from Columbia to join Stanford to spearhead this econometrics program in a joint appointment between economics and statistics in Stanford. With a commitment to join the UP School of Economics, upon completion of my PhD, it was imperative for me to write a dissertation on econometrics. I started my research before Anderson's arrival at Stanford, and with his arrival and weekly meetings, I completed my dissertation on distributions and moments of single equation estimators in a set of simultaneous linear stochastic equations. This thesis was as theoretical as this title suggests. Completed in November 1969, this work has a pretty concise 86 pages long, dealt with an analytical study of the finite sample properties of two popular estimators used in econometric models, two-stage least squares and limited information maximum likelihood, which are well known to be asymptotically equivalent in large samples, but not well studied at that time through analytical methods for their comparative properties in small samples. Anderson's attention to mathematical rigor set the path to my quickly publishing articles from my dissertation, one in JASA and two in Econometrica. I returned to the Philippines in 1969 and taught in the UP School of Economics for a couple of years. And during those years at the UP School of Economics, I had the pleasure of working with Pepe Encarnacion and other colleagues in the School of Economics, constructing the first macroeconometric model for the Philippines, and this was done in 1970-71. And in 1971, I accepted a one-year visiting appointment in the economics department at the University of Pennsylvania. That one-year appointment evolved into a tenured position and 31 years on the faculty of the economics department at the University of Pennsylvania. And at Penn, Lawrence R. Klein, Nobel Prize winner for his pioneering development of econometric models, encouraged my focus on econometrics. My long years of professional collaboration with him instilled the underlying insistence on blending theory and practice in all the numerous papers and projects that we worked on. It was Professor Klein who arranged my initial appointment at Penn. It turned out that T.W. Anderson and Lawrence Klein were very good friends and were fellow colleagues in their first job after the PhD, and this was in the mid-1940s, at the Coles Commission, where econometrics, as it got developed in the United States, was born in the Coles Foundation. 1/4 of my salary at Penn was paid by Klein's Wharton Econometric Forecasting Associates, a not-for-profit consulting firm founded by Klein but fully owned by the University of Pennsylvania. And in return, Klein required me to work on WIFA's econometric consulting projects. Klein's annual NBER time series workshops in the 1990s also proved to be a fertile ground for econometric research, as Klein grappled with econometric issues in forecasting and model evaluation. Frank Diebold and I would be participating in these meetings regularly, and we eventually developed our Diebold-Mariano test that Lisa mentioned for comparing forecast accuracy, and this was published in 1995. 25 years later, this paper continues to be ranked high in the list of most cited papers in economics today. And as Lisa pointed out, this test became or has become one of the standard statistical procedures used in studies in economics, as well as in many other disciplines where competing methods are being assessed for accuracy. From the beginning, I studied to be a theoretical statistician, but with a strong sense and interest in the real-world application of the mathematical methodology that I would learn or develop. Through a series of serendipitous events, I was able to combine this theoretical expertise with practice in the field of econometrics. all the while maintaining my involvement in the Philippines while based in Philadelphia or Singapore or elsewhere. In my professional experience for over 5 decades, here are some instances where theory meets real world applications in my world of statistics and econometrics. In the 1980s, I would return to the Philippines and Asia on a regular basis for training and research consultancies in the region for private corporations, government agencies, multinational institutions, dealing with econometric methodology and applying them for forecasting and policy analysis for company or country requirements. I actually spent 2 years in the Philippines as resident consultant under UNDP auspices at PIDS, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, during its formative years in 1983 to 85 to train in-house staff in applied econometric methodology and develop econometric models for inflation forecasting, macroeconomic forecasting, and policy analysis. These were the formative years of PIDS, and quite a few of the PIDS staff that I trained then became future leaders of the Institute. My consultancy projects with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas since the 1990s dealt with econometric modeling for monetary and financial policy, inflation targeting, and estimating potential output in the Philippines. And my work with BSP continues today with service as member of the bank's research expert panel, the international advisory body for the overall institutional research program of the BSP. And in my teaching experience since the 1960s, designing teaching curricula that blend theory and practice showed in the undergraduate curriculum in economics at Singapore Management University when I was founding dean of the School of Economics, and econometrics courses at Penn undergrad and graduate level, where theoretical discussion of econometric techniques were followed immediately with practical illustrations in real-life experimental studies, and also practical projects required to showcase techniques that are learned. A course like this turns out to be a pretty popular course and tends to win Best Undergraduate Teaching Awards for the year. In conclusion, let me end with a quote from the distinguished statistician C.R. Rao, who in his presidential address during the International Statistical Institute's meeting in Manila in 1979 emphasizes this fundamental characterization of the field, which still rings true today, 5 decades later. There is no field of human endeavor, C.R. Rao says, then in 1979, whether it is regulating our daily lives, managing the affairs of an enterprise, administering state planning for the socio-economic development of a country, diagnosis of diseases, designing military operations, forecasting catastrophes, or probing the secrets of nature, which does not come under the purview of statistics. To the fellow participants in this conference, do enjoy this conference. Be inspired by the myriad presentations and the people you meet that reflect the richness of statistics today and its challenging, bright future, which an 18-year-old like me never imagined or worried about in his first encounter with the subject. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And
thank you
goodbye.
very much, Dr. Mariano. We will continue later with conversation with you when we ask you questions.
Yes.
That was an interesting and inspiring journey that you shared with us. Thank you po.
And maraming salamat din.
Sige po, mamaya magkwentuhan pa ulit tayo, sir, sa Q&A.
Okay.
Thank you. So our next master who will be sharing also her journey with us is Dr. Grace Montepiedra, and she's going to talk about a biostatistician's life in the world of clinical trials. I would like to talk more first about Dr. Montepiedra. Dr. Grace Montepiedra is a research scientist in the Department of Biostatistics at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. She received her bachelor's and master's degrees in statistics from the University of the Philippines in Diliman and received her PhD degree in statistics from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. She was faculty of the Applied Statistics and Operations Research Department at the College of Business, Bowling Green State University in Ohio for 10 years. And in 2003, she moved to the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Boston, where she started what is now a 17-year career as a biostatistician with a joint appointment at the Department of Biostatistics and the Center for Biostatistics in AIDS Research. Dr. Montepiedra, may I give you now the opportunity to share with us your journey as well in your chosen field.
Thank you very much, uh, Lisa Grace. Um, it's a pleasure to be here with everyone. I feel like, the prodigal daughter coming back, and it's been a long time. I've been absent from the statistical um, culture there, and it's really wonderful to be able to be around with colleagues there. I'm very excited to share some of my experiences with my life here in Boston, at the School of Public Health. Um, Let me just see if I can start the slideshow. Okay, can everyone see it?
Grace,
Not
we
yet.
cannot
Not
see
Yes.
yet
yet.
your slideshow.
Oh, you cannot see it? Let me
Do you
see if I
want
can.
our secretariat, our documenters to share your presentation for you?
Um, sure. Let me see if I can. If I'm, hopefully I'm still on. Can you guys still see me?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see you and we can hear you, Grace. And if you can look at your
Okay.
screen, Bea already has put up your presentation.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Okay. So
thank
I'll just
you.
ask you to change the slides, to move the
Yes,
slide. Is
please.
that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So yeah, just when talking about biostatistician's life here, it's really my life, and this is just one of the many worlds of clinical trials. So this is just the world I'm experiencing. So um, just to clarify this title, next slide, please. So what is biostatistics before we delve into my world? Well, Rafael Irizarry is one of the biostats professor at Harvard. When he was on a recruiting mission for a program at biostatistics Harvard department, most of the students were not really aware of a department of biostatistics, and most of the rest of them actually said that biostatistics is the study of clinical trials. Next slide, please. So, I looked at Merriam-Webster and Wikipedia, and, basically what Merriam-Webster says is that it's the statistical processes and methods applied to the collection, analysis, and interpretation of biological data, and especially data relating to human biology, health, and medicine. Wikipedia says it's the development and application of statistical methods to a wide range of topics in biology. It encompasses the design of biological experiments, collection analysis of data from these experiments, and the interpretation of results. So it's pretty wide. It's more than just clinical trials, as you can see. Next slide, please. So how does one become a biostatistician? Well, I'm going to call it the formal way, the normal way that you become have a biostatistician career is to get a master's or a PhD in biostatistics. And biostats programs are mostly in schools of public health or medicine. It's actually probably the program, the non-statistics program in statistics that's probably the most popular, the most widely visible. And there's about over 90 programs actually in the US. But another way that you can actually become a biostatistician in a formal way is to have a master's or a PhD in statistics. And basically, it's just the theory and the basic knowledge, the fundamentals in the program is pretty much the same, whether you take a master's in in statistics, a graduate program in statistics, or be in a graduate program in biostatistics. In my mind, in the general statistics programs, you tend to have more emphasis on mathematical theory, while the biostatistics programs tend to emphasize data and the subject matter. So as a matter of fact, when I went to school in UP, I was started with statistics, undergraduate statistics, a master's in statistics. I moved to the US for a graduate program, and it is purely in the Twin Cities area. It's in the statistics program. So when I decided to move to work in Harvard for as a biostatistician, I was learning clinical trials on the job. I didn't get a clinical trials course. I didn't get courses that are specific to biostatistics, but we have the fundamentals, and it's you can sort of be able to have a grasp or be able to adapt to that particular field. Next slide, please. So, just to give you an idea, like what are the kinds of things that, biostatisticians get involved with? So if you look at the Harvard Biostats, examples of projects that the faculty and student get involved with, things like, looking at environmental causes of diseases, things like developing and analyzing, modeling social and biological networks using, for example, using cell phone and sensor data to study social behavioral functioning among those with mood disorders. Another project a faculty is involved with or students are involved with are, looking at the human microbiome and how their role in maintaining health and human function, as well as in disease. Next slide, please. Developing algorithms to create a platform or a framework to use large data sets. Some of the faculty there are very much interested in an analysis of genetic data. Also surveillance or, using large observational cohort to study certain medications, for example, antiretrovirals during pregnancy. And, the design, monitor, and analyze clinical trials to evaluate regimens or strategies for the treatment or prevention of diseases, for example, infectious diseases such as HIV, tuberculosis, and more recently with COVID-19. So clinical trials is just part of this whole, this area in statistics called biostatistics. And that's the world I am in. And for the rest of the slides, that's where I'm going to be honing in. Next slide, please. So, just to give you an idea about, where my my world is right now, I'm actually working at the Center for Biostatistics in AIDS Research, or we call it, we lovingly call it CBAR. It's based at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health. We have 2 floors, and one of the buildings in the School of Public Health, and then just in the building in that complex is the Department of Biostatistics. So very much, within within probably a few steps away from the Department of Biostatistics. So the center was established in 1987, back, in the height of the AIDS crisis, and this was established from a large grant from the National Institutes of Health. It's sort of the largest government institution that provides research support in public health, or in the health sciences. And we basically provide statistical support for HIV clinical trials it's a large consortium of investigators across multiple institutions, multiple universities across, the U.S. during that time. And at that time, actually, you know, uh, AIDS was kind of a death. It's having HIV infection was kind of a death sentence. There's the you pretty much a person dies within 6 months due to HIV with a opportunistic infection like pneumonia. Usually a year survival if you have HIV with Kaposi sarcoma. So, and hundreds of people were dying daily. So at that time, uh, what we call the AIDS Clinical Trials Group, or the ECTG, started with only 12 US research sites. That's back in 1986. The next slide, please. So back then, there was only one drug, and it's kind of sounds like deja vu now that we are in this current epidemic. Back then, there was one drug that was found to be able to sort of reduce the death rate, increase the survival rate rather. It's called AZT. It's a single drug, and at that time, there was a couple of medical doctors in ACTG. I was talking to Steve Lagakos, one of the statisticians at Harvard, and they were saying, let's, put together this new study. We think that combination therapy is going to work. So in addition to AZT, they tried to look at, another two more drugs combined with monotherapy. And that's the ACTG 175, which was the first proof that combination regimen is better than monotherapy, significantly increase the survival rate. And as you all know now, HIV is really considered now a chronic disease instead of a death sentence, right? It's also the trial wherein they've proven that a very important surrogate marker for clinical trials, instead of having an endpoint or an outcome, in clinical trials usually they haven't had an outcome, instead of studying the outcome of progression to AIDS or death, which takes a long time to observe, basically as an outcome, they found out that you can use viral load as a surrogate marker, and that significantly decreased the time it takes to complete a trial. So this was back in 1996 when this landmark trials results came out. Next slide, please. Next slide. So after that, it actually became, back to page 9. The previous slide, please. So back in, so next slide, sorry. So now it's grown to three. ACTG now has we're now supporting three big networks: the ACTG, or the Adult AIDS Clinical Trials Network, and which sort of it was studying. We were studying adult and pediatric populations in that network, but now it sort of the pediatric arm sort of became what we call now impact, and then there's another observational cohort network that was also became part of the set of networks that we are supporting. So we've been expanding. In 2002, we've actually started to go more international. So it's really sort of a success story in terms of being able to do the work in determining or in assessing, evaluating interventions for treatment of HIV/AIDS. And now we're 100 plus biostatisticians, epidemiologists, programmers, and support staff that are working. It's a very vibrant group, and it's very nice to be able to have that colleagues of biostatisticians that you sort of you brainstorm and you sort of collaborate within this group. We basically provide what this group is. We provide statistical expertise and support for clinical trials, initially in HIV, and we've sort of expanded to other infectious diseases, tuberculosis, influenza, and now we're doing a couple of studies in COVID-19. And what this entails is like a collaboration with many different entities, with clinical investigators across different universities in the U.S. and all over the world. We have clinical research sites as well everywhere. We have pharmaceutical companies who are providing the drugs, and basically this is all happening because we have somebody who is paying for the conduct of these clinical trials. National Institutes of Health basically is the major grant provider for all three networks. Most importantly, we have community advocates. We have a community advisory board. During the time when AIDS was a very big issue, activists in the U.S. while the initial conferences on AIDS were going on, you have these activists outside, who are asking for treatment to improve survival. Next slide, please. So now the network is, all over the world. The Philippines started to get on board. We have one clinical research site in Cavite, the De La Salle University, I think. So it's pretty widespread now. As I mentioned earlier, we have a government help with this. We have activists and patients and their caregivers who are part of the community advisory board that we go to for advice, different universities and different pharmaceutical companies who are sponsoring their drugs. Next slide, please. So going back to CBAR, so what do we do? What do we do with in our work? Well, basically, probably the most important thing we do in the beginning is we help design the clinical trial. So we are very critical part of this network of investigators. I would say I want to call us the architects of a clinical trial. We are very much in the leadership of putting together these trials. We have to determine what is the appropriate design, but before that, we actually, are the ones, our analytical skills allow us to actually have the clarity, provide the clarity and analytical skills to put together what the scientific objective of the trial. We're involved at that level. We determine, we help the clinicians determine what is the outcome of interest, what is the endpoint that we should be measuring. We're very much involved with that. More importantly, how big should the study be? And it's probably the most stressful part of the job because we always have a bargaining thing with the clinicians and the sponsors about sample size. And so we have to really have a good reason why the sample size has to be 3,000 people. It lies in our hands, so to speak. And then we also are involved with statistical monitoring, and finally, data analysis. So as I mentioned earlier, our role is critical to the success of the study. So in our model, for each clinical trial, we'll have a lead statistician who is pretty much in charge of putting together the design. And then usually there's another protocol statistician, usually a master's level statistician, who would actually be doing a lot of the hard work once the trial is ongoing, the data monitoring and the final analysis of the data. Next slide, please. So just to give you an example of how how it works, this one is a little bit more recent. Well, it's I guess recent. It was published in the last 4 years. So this is one typical phase 3 trial that we do is what we call it a non-inferiority trial. It's a randomized non-inferiority trial. We call it, these studies, the investigators always like to give it a name, like select trial, some kind of nice acronym so that we will always, it's easy to remember. So instead of ACTG 5273, we call it select, the select trial. So in this case, we are interested, for example, if you're interested in studying, HIV-infected adults who are failing first-line regimen. So they're basically these are patients who are resistant to one of the important class of drugs, antiretrovirals called the NRTI, or nucleoside reverse transcriptase drug. And so we decided that we're gonna randomly assign 1-to-1 to receive either this new drug, this new regimen, which is a ritonavir boosted lopinavir plus raltegravir, or what is the sort of the standard of care, which is RTVR plus 2 or 3 NRTI drugs using basically an algorithm. So we would pretty much do a randomization, and the next step is to actually come up with to define what is the right outcome. And as I mentioned before, instead of whereas in the past the outcome of interest was progression to AIDS or death, because a good surrogate marker was actually obtained, we're now looking at virologic failure after week 24. So in the era of COVID, we're, I guess, still trying to figure out, right, what is a better surrogate marker than, say, progression to, hospitalization or death, right? So these are the things we all have to be involved with. We call it a design schema as part of the team that puts together the trial. Next slide, please. Next slide. So why is it a non-inferiority trial instead of superiority trial? Well, the first is that the active control, the standard of care, is efficacious, meaning it's pretty good success rate of 82%. And the experimental regimen, remember the raltegravir-based regimen, may not have better efficacy, but it has similar or slightly worse efficacy, so it may not necessarily be superior, but it may have other benefits like less toxicity, less resistance issues, and these benefits can be traded off with some loss in efficacy. So we decide that a non-inferiority trial is appropriate in this situation. So our primary objective is to evaluate whether the difference in the success rate is um, is less than what we call a non-inferiority margin, where the non-inferiority margin was determined to be 10%, whatever that 10% value is, meaning that we can allow a loss of efficacy of 10% because it has other benefits, potentially the experimental regimen. The next slide, please. So at which point we determine the sample size, and we have to assume whether the control arm rate is 82%. We wanted to have a 90% power to conclude non-inferiority. We are going to use a 2.5% one level alpha. All of these we will need to be able to have, and also that we are allowing a non-inferiority margin of 10%. And then we can be able to determine the sample size, which in this case was 240 per group. So in this situation, we usually use a software, which in our case, PASS is one of the softwares that we use, and EAST is a more sort of it has more bells and whistles, so to speak. It does Bayesian design and all that stuff, but there are specific sample size softwares now that are available for us to do this. So we're going to do a primary analysis, difference in Kaplan-Meier estimates of cumulative probability of neurological failure by week 48. Next slide, please. So once we're done with the design, that's not the end of it. And then the statistician will have to go through this grueling process of following, over a period of many years, looking at the data, monitoring, reporting to the team, looking at study conduct, safety data, and then we also report to what we call an independent body called the Data Safety Monitoring Board or a Study Monitoring Committee. And they basically are, just oversee as an independent body whether the study is going on as by protocol and whether there's any issues. And then we're also involved in what we call interim analyses. We also plan this ahead of time so that you can look at the data in between. And if the data is showing that early signs of success, then we stop. Or if the data is basically saying, no matter how much more data we get, it's futile, then we stop. So this is ongoing for several years, and then finally, at the end, when everybody completes the study, all the participants have been completed follow-up. Then we do the primary analyses and we do other secondary analyses. Next slide, please. So in clinical trials world, we use SAS. SAS is the software of choice. So I don't know. I remember back when in School of Statistics days, we were doing this punch card stuff still back then, but we were using SAS back then. I don't know what is the program of choice now in your programs, but SAS is still the software of choice in clinical trials, both in the pharmaceutical world and in our world. And it's very important because it is the program software of choice for trials with what we call regulatory submission requirements. It's considered the industry standard, and SAS programmers are very much in demand. We have SAS programmers in our group, so it is a career by itself. But the other thing is that I think R is very, very much more popular now than SAS, and we do use it because it's open source. And when there are new methodology that we want to try, then R is almost like real time. Once somebody has a new methodology developed, you put it as part of a supplementary material in the journal, and then you can use it. So it's a very, very, it's a beautiful addition to our, especially in the digital age, However, it needs more rigorous validation for use in clinical trials, and that's the hardship that we go through whenever we use R in our studies. Next slide, please. So that's the clinical trials part. But in addition to that part, where the supporting part of of our job, we are also, involvement in these trials also um, uh, requires that we develop new methodologies, because there are so many open problems that we see. Every single clinical trial, there's always an open question, there's always an issue. And then we look at our textbooks and we say, okay, this is not going to work with this situation. And so we keep asking questions and keep figuring out how can we do this better. And so the thing is, CBAR has faculty with joint appointments with biostatistics and epidemiology departments. So it's great to be next to have these connections with, with the graduate program in biostatistics. Because not only do we contribute to clinical research, but we also are able to contribute to statistical research as well. So there's this synergy between CBAR biostats and faculty students from these departments. Next slide, please. So as an example, I started to get into this thing called risk-benefit trade-off. Why is that? Because we have so many trials that we're doing. Well, not so many trials, but several trials which are turns out to be non-inferiority trials are actually pretty popular in our field. And we keep talking about this non-inferiority margin. There's like, in the last 2 years, we just published two TB prevention studies. We call it the brief TB and TB Uprise, which you see here. And basically, we have a primary outcome. We want to determine non-inferiority of the new arm with respect to the primary outcome. Again, why non-inferiority? Because we expect that this new regimen will be better in some other aspect, in some domain, like toxicity, better quality of life. And so we assign some non-inferiority margin, like 10% or 5%, 1.25%. It's an open question. Where did we get the non-inferiority margin? It's always been an open question, and that's always been, when you look at the journals and the publications, why did we choose 10%? Why did you choose 5%? Clinical decision, or a lot of it really is consultation with the clinicians. But there is actually a statistical reason. There's a statistical guideline for the choice, but it's actually has not anything to do with the risk-benefit trade-off. So next slide, please. I think I'm going a little bit over time here, so please let me know if I can stop. I can stop anytime. So finally, we were able to publish the results in these good journals. All of these show non-inferiority, but it's still scratching my head and saying, well, I don't know quite sure if I'm really declaring non-inferiority. I chose a 5%. I'm not even sure that that should be the right choice. Next slide, please. So, how do you reflect or quantify this trade-off in the non-inferiority margin? So I have this, we have this HIV working group. As again, we present to some of the faculty at the School of Biostatistics, and LJ Way, one of the prominent statisticians in that group, he was sitting right in front, and I was presenting the design, the study, with all my questions scratching my head, and he challenged me and said, well, try something else. Try a different paradigm, try using some kind of a risk-benefit outcome. And at that time, I was having discussions also with this other guy, Scott Evans, who at that time was already starting to think about this outcome called desirability of outcome ranking. So through those challenges and those conversations, and Scott finally published the DOOR outcome, clinical infectious diseases, I started to think about it more and started writing about it in the context of TB regimens. So, one of the things, the great things that we could do as statisticians is to also open up to the clinical researchers the potential for looking at different paradigms. Next slide, please. Next
Grace,
slide.
may I request you to wrap up?
Oh, sorry. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. So, there's another area is cluster randomized designs. Next slide, please. Next slide. I'm going to. This is just another example, and now we are in COVID field. We have built expertise and. We have an infrastructure that allows us to expand to research the emerging infectious diseases such as in COVID-19. And we finally have, now have one large platform trial that is looking at outpatient monoclonal antibodies and other therapies. Next slide, please. So I can tell you about the challenges, opportunities in the digital age, but the bottom line here is that we have increased connectivity. So conducting these large clinical trials with so many stakeholders allows, better communication. We are able to optimize electronic data entry. We have better collaboration among biostatisticians all over. Next slide, please. And we have open access resources. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example, in the next slide, there's a platform that's we're in. We are able to actually put our data, other clinical trials data into that platform. And anybody can just go in there, ask with permission, can just go there, look at the trials, look at the data, do meta-analyses. And these kinds of examples of platform are available for public use for any statisticians all over the world. Next slide, please. These are just examples. TB packs, a collection of many different clinical trials in TB. They're now being collected in that repository for everyone to use. Next slide, please. Clinicaltrials.gov is another platform. Next slide, please. And a lot of clinical trials data aggregated are available there. So you can be able to, when you're designing an experiment for your assumptions, you can go there and look at the data summaries and you can come up with prior assumptions on your, in designing your experiments. Next slide, please. Next slide. Sorry, I'm running through the slides real quickly. I want to make room for Edsel. So in conclusion, biostatisticians are in high demand, many rewards, including potential to have impact on public health. Our work is not limited to clinical trials. And finally, the digital age has opened doors across borders. We have a lot of opportunities, but we have a lot of challenges as well. I'm going to end this, and I thank everyone. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Grace. I believe that many of our audience here has a lot of questions for you. So we will reserve their questions after Edsel gives his presentation. Thank you, Grace. Our next master has a very interesting title for his presentation, Searching for Truth and Decision-Making Under Randomness, Uncertainty, and Incomplete Information. Dr. Edsel A. Pena is a full professor at the Department of Statistics, University of South Carolina. He's the program director at MPS DMS Statistics at the National Science Foundation on an Intergovernmental Personnel Act, IPA, assignment. Since 2002, he is the director of the Biometric Core Center for Colon Cancer Research at the University of South Carolina. He obtained his PhD degree in statistics at the Florida State University, while he received his master's and bachelor's degrees in statistics from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. His research interests include mathematical statistics, survival analysis, reliability, stochastic processes, biostatistics, financial statistics, and high-dimensional reference. Prior to joining the Department of Statistics at the USC. He was a faculty member at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and Bowling Green University. He was also a visiting associate professor at University of Michigan at Ann Arbor twice, and a visiting researcher in the Department of Statistics of the Florida State University. He was the Institute of Mathematical Statistics Executive Secretary from August 1, 2017 to July 31, 2020, just recently. He's an elected full member of the PAASE, the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, and an elected member of the ISI, the International Statistical Institute. He has authored numerous journal publications and contributed packages to the comprehensive R archive network library. He has also given hundreds of talks in professional meetings and in colloquia and seminars, and has been awarded several research and conference grants. Yes, Dr. Pena, Edsel is a great supporter of the advancement of statistics here in the Philippines. So, Edsel, over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Let me share my screen here, if I could. And let's see. So could you see what
Yes, we can see your presentation.
okay, you can see it. Good.
Yes,
I guess
great.
so I have full control. I have full control. So this is a big honor for me to join this conference. And like Grace and Dr. Mariano, we have been out of the Philippines for quite some time. So I think this is a good way for us to contribute and to encourage young people to go into the statistics in the data science field. So that's the essence of my talk here. As Lisa had mentioned, I am currently program director at the National Science Foundation. This is going to be a 2-year, possibly 3-year position, but I'm still full professor at the University of South Carolina. So the university is lending me to the federal government in that sense. And in the National Science Foundation, we decide on the allocation of grant money to different professors, researchers, including Grace and everybody else in the United States. Okay, so the title of my talk is more philosophical because I think statistics is actually a philosophical type of field, as we'll see. Before that, though, I need to have this disclaimer. If you are working with a government, you have to have a disclaimer when you're giving a talk that the opinions that I present here are just my opinion and not the government's opinion. I think that's the right thing to do. Okay, so here's the outline of my talk. I think this will be the least technical talk that I'm giving in a long time. Okay, so I'm warning the students who are expecting lots of technicalities that this will not be a technical talk. This will be more like Dr. Marianne's talk, more kind of encouraging people to get into our field. I'm going to do some recollections about my life in UPLB and how I got into the statistics field. The career path, for those of you who might want to go into the same paths that Grace and Dr. Mariano did. So maybe that will give you some idea. And Hernando tomorrow will also do that. Actually, it's interesting because Grace, Hernando Ombao, who will be a plenary speaker too, and myself, we overlap in Bowling Green State University in Ohio. So there was some common thing there, and I think we also have came from Philippine Science High School and so on. So there's some interesting connections that you'll see here. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the central role of statistics in what statisticians do. Of course, Grace had given a very nice talk about what biostatisticians do, and that's nice. And then a little bit about important traits of statisticians or data scientists. And I think for the young people in the audience, you are very much interested in kind of knowing what the future job prospects are in this particular field. And if I have time, I'd like to give some specific problems that we statisticians are involved in, just to illustrate the power of statistics in the context of society. And I think Dr. Mariano did that a little bit earlier in some concluding remarks. Now, it's interesting that Dr. Mariano earlier mentioned Sia Rao. And in fact, I think the first time I met Sia Rao was in that 1979 ISI meeting in Manila. And if I'm not mistaken, IP David and Dr. Hernelia, I think invited Sia Rao in UPLB. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I was the one who picked him up from the airport from Manila to go to Los Baños. So, and I was an undergraduate student then in that situation. But I mentioned him here, Sierra, because when I was in Bowling Green, he also visited us. He was a visitor for one semester, and he was a very nice fellow. And he just celebrated his 100th birthday last September 10. So not very many statisticians maybe reaches that age, but he's still quite active. Maybe not very active anymore research-wise, but still very active. And I wanted to quote something from him, which is from his book, Statistics in Truth. And he said, all knowledge is in the final analysis history, all sciences are in the abstract mathematics, in all judgments are in the rational statistics. I thought I always liked that quotation from him. Okay, now let me start then with some reminiscences of my UPLB days. And this is it's kind of interesting because our lives have a certain sense of randomness, serendipity, as Dr. Mariano had said. And I'd like to tell you how I got into the statistics field at UPLB. I never wanted to be a statistician. I wanted to be a chemist. I wanted to be an engineer, and those were my career goals. I wanted to go to Diliman, study engineering or chemical engineering. That was my goal in that case. Now, when I finished my high school in the Philippine Science, though, I didn't come from a rich family, so we didn't have much money. But I got a GSI scholarship to pursue my undergraduate studies in Diliman. But I also took this INTAP scholarship in UPLB, which awards 12 scholarships, full scholarships to, I think, the ones who passed them, okay? And that deal with these INTAP scholarships that you have to finish your degree in 3 years. Okay, so if you get into it, you must finish your degree in 3 years. So I did qualify to be one of the scholars in this INTAP scholarship, but now I have to decide on what degree I was going to take. There wasn't any chemical engineering in Los Baños. I wanted to go into chemistry, bachelor's of science in chemistry, but then that would take longer than 3 years. And I said I couldn't afford that. And so I was in this mind, I said, what am I taking if I have to finish this degree in 3 years? And my father said, hey, why don't you take statistics? Nobody seems to be taking this field. And I didn't know too much about statistics, okay? So, but when your father tells you to take something, you do it. So I took statistics, and in the beginning, I didn't like it because when you start statistics, your first class in statistics, it's kind of like you're memorizing things. There doesn't seem to be this nice framework and so on and so forth. And I wasn't liking it at all. I only started liking it when I started taking the probability theory courses in the mathematical statistics courses. And Hironalia, who is in the audience, was my professor in mathematical statistics. And I think Ray Panopio or Rudy Castillo was my professor in probability theory. I loved those courses. And when I started taking them, something was clicking somehow. I started to like statistics, and I started technically loving the field of statistics because of those courses. And so I hooked into statistics, and that's how I ended up in this field. Now, I had my favorite courses. I had my less favorite courses. Like I think I didn't like non-parametrics during that time, but my research area actually turned out to be non-parametrics. So it's one of those serendipitous things that happens in your life. Randomness. Life is random in a certain sense. Now, nowadays, the state of computing is very advanced. When we were graduate students, we didn't have much computers. We had a calculator that is quite big with only 12 buttons. It couldn't even take a square root, I think. So nowadays, you have your iPhone that could do everything. Okay, so it could even keep things for you, everything. Okay, so life for you is now very easy in that situation. I also took elective courses, and I think econometrics and management courses I took, and those were very helpful to me. But life in UPLB was more studying, so I went to the UPLB libraries in the libraries, read a lot. Yeah, I just kept reading. I didn't have any money to spend anyway, so what else could you do but play sports and read, okay? So, and then, so I did finish after 3 years, and then the problem is, what do I do after 3 years? Okay. And I was expected to support my sister in her college education. And I said I had to find a job. So I found a job in Meralco, okay, corporation. That was one of the nice companies during that time. And I was offered a job, and I was about to start on a Monday. It's like Monday next week. So I wanted to say goodbye to Anne, who was my advisor then, and the other staff professors. And then when I came to Los Baños to say goodbye, they said, you cannot take that job. Okay, they said, you had to teach. And it was summertime, so I don't know how they came up in a position. But I started teaching in UPLB instead of taking that Meralco job. So this is what I meant by two roads diverge, and you take this road, and then you're stuck with it somehow, and just like Dr. Mariana there. Okay, and then so I thought, and I think Sita Albacea actually was a student of mine and several other people there. And then I decided to take my MS program at UPLB, and got that in 1982. Okay, 1992. Yeah, 1992, and then under and then. But after my master's degree, I thought I didn't understand so many things. I was reading these journal articles. I was reading this book by Cremier, an old book in mathematical statistics. I was reading analysis books, and I couldn't understand them. They were just way up my level at that point, even if I had taken my master's degree. And I decided then that I said I need to study somewhere for higher level education. And that's when I decided to go to the United States. And I was very lucky here because my roommates, Julie Unyate, Cecil Balagtas, and Lilia Bacon, were all going to the States. And I said I had to do that too. So in some sense, it pushed me. So it's good to have friends that are very ambitious because it carries you over in that sense too. So I went then to Florida State University. I think they were very nice in offering me a graduate assistantship where you have to teach. So they give you $500 per month, okay, during that time. And then you have to teach and you survive on that, and you save 3 months of that for your tuition, okay? So and, when I left the Philippines, I wanted to pursue a major kind of a research area in design of experiments, statistical computing, more the applied area. In that case, and I said I'm going back to the Philippines. But when I explored the State University, I realized that the department is a very theoretical department. I think during the time it was ranked number 5 in the nation. And it's a very, very theoretical department. The professors are very theoretical minded. And I had a lot of problems when I was starting because I was not very strong then in real analysis, in measure theory. So that was weaknesses that I immediately encountered. So for the young people, if you want to pursue graduate studies, try to beef up those subjects that you are weak on. Okay, but I never gave up. I caught on, studied, kind of mastered those areas, and I caught up in those things there. So after 4 years at Florida State University, I got my degree and did my dissertation just like Dr. Mariana. I did it with Miles Hollander, who has retired. In fact, tomorrow there's the inaugural lecture series in Miles Hollander's honor. So anybody could attend it. You just had to go to the Florida State University website and you could register for it. I think it's at 11 o'clock Eastern time, so you could do that. Okay, but when you get into this, you have to keep adapting and adjusting to a different environment. Like when you're teaching American students, you have to adapt. It's a different system and so on and so forth, but you keep learning on how you adapt to that. Another advice that I'd like to give the younger people is that do not look too far in your life immediately, okay? Uh, do it one step at a time, but in every little step that you do it well. Because by doing it well, the options to you opens up, even though it's incremental in that way. But if you keep looking and say, I want to become a millionaire in 10 years, then it becomes a very hard thing to do. But if you do it one at a time, do it well in that small interval of time, then you'll be okay. As Dr. Mariano also had mentioned earlier, it is quite difficult to predict what the future holds, but always grab the good opportunities that arise to you. Okay, you never know where you will end up 15 years, 20 years from now. I think that's the case with Grace, with Hernando, with Bobby Mariano there. You never know, but just keep doing the best that you could. Okay, so now we'll have to emphasize too much here, these things, but as the two previous speakers had mentioned, statistics is very broad area. You could become an applied statistician. You could become a biostatistician. You could be an econometrician, or you could be a social scientist with statistics specialties. You could do that. You could also be a mathematical statistician. I kind of consider myself a mathematical statistician because I like the theory, the mathematics behind things. But I also do applied things, and in fact, that directorship of the biometric core was more to get involved with applied things like what Grace is doing. You could be a modeler, okay, probabilistic or mathematical modeler in that case. And then after you specialize in things, there are many possible jobs that you could get into. You could be an academician or in the education area. You could go into insurance, okay, banking in the finance industry. Some of my students, for instance, they went into insurance, in banking. Most of my students went into academic positions. They're faculty members now in different universities in the US. You could also go into the pharmaceutical industry. That is a very nice set of jobs that you could have, or you could have government jobs in the Census Bureau, in the labor statistics, agriculture. You could do that. Or you could become a member of a scientific team like Grace there, who are dealing with very important societal problems, medical problems in that situation. Or if you really want to become rich somehow with lots of money, you could try to go into Google or you could go into Facebook, where their salaries are immediately 3 times or 2 times the salaries of full professors. So it's all your option, but I think it's very difficult to get into Google or to Facebook or LinkedIn and so on and so forth. But those are all possibilities, okay? You never know where you will end up, but those are possibilities that you could have, okay? Now, with regards to the traits of statisticians and data scientists, okay? My advice to the younger people is to try to possess as broad a knowledge as possible, okay? Don't limit yourself to just statistics or mathematics. Read some more things about biology, about chemistry, about engineering, about social science and politics. Those are important things because statisticians need to be well-rounded because we consult with many different fields. So you need that broadness in some sense. And so if you are narrow in your field or in your knowledge, it's very difficult to do the consultation. So I said, do not limit your scholarly interest to just statistics. You must enjoy mathematical and logical thinking. If you are not enjoying that part, it's hard to become a statistician because statistics, like mathematics, is a logical field. Okay, it proceeds through logic, and you need to do that. Okay, you must enjoy computers in computer programming. It used to be that when we had to develop new procedures, we had to program that in Fortran or Pascal, or I think COBOL was another one during our time. But now you could program it in R or in Python or in more powerful languages like C or C++. So you need to keep adjusting to that, need to keep learning new computer programming languages. But R is very good. As Grace was mentioning earlier, R is almost sufficient for us statisticians, or SAS. SAS, you have to pay a lot of money, but that's another thing there. Now, you must be driven, you must be very inquisitive, and you must never give up, especially if you get into an academic position. In the United States or in the Western universities, surviving in the academic field requires a lot of publications. But publishing papers is not easy. You will get a lot of rejections when you submit papers. If you give up, you'll never get it. So you never give up. You keep being persistent. Okay, so that's an important thing. Learn to communicate effectively. It could be verbal and written because that's very important because unlike say other fields, statisticians deal with people. Okay, you have to communicate. If you couldn't communicate, then there will be a barrier between the people that are in a particular discipline in yourself. So learn to do that, and that's why it's important to be broad in your knowledge. Okay. Another thing that I'd like to emphasize that never stop learning. Always be a student. Okay. So our life is too short, but keep learning, whatever it is. The statistics field or the data science field is changing too quickly. Nowadays, you have very, very fast computers. You now have very big data sets, very highly unstructured data sets. So the field has changed a lot as compared to 20 years ago. So you need to keep learning how to deal with these new paradigms, these new data types. And you could only do that by doing it and by reading and working things out. Okay, so always be a student. I always like to say to my students that I'm also a student, even though I'm the professor to them. I'll say I'm always also a student. Now, with regards to job prospects of statisticians and data scientists, I think we have a very good job potential here. Okay, but when you're still a student, try to do internships. Okay, in companies in the Philippines, or if you are somewhere abroad, in companies, you could do internship during summer. They'll pay you, but you will experience a lot of other things too. And if you impress your bosses and supervisors after your internship, and when you graduate, they might offer you a job. I think we have several students that intern in Disney or this banking establishment, and after they graduated, they get immediately offered a nice job. So that's one possibilities. But there are many opportunities in terms of job opportunities in many different sectors. The compensation for statisticians or data scientists is not bad. Okay, so I would say that we are paid well. Okay, of course, if you go into Google and Facebook, you will be paid very, very well. Okay, but academic ones are not so much. But to us, we would always say that that's not the major consideration. Okay, so I think money is not the most important thing in life. It's more the enjoyment of the things that you do. Enjoy your job and do the best you can. And I always say, tell this to my student, your current job will not be your last job. So that's why you keep doing things well. So you'll always have the opportunity to move into another job, and you'll have better opportunities in that way. And always challenge yourself in keep learning. Aim high in beyond your expectations. Opportunities follow that way, and you grab the good opportunities that you have. So I think our field is very good in that. And as a testament to that, you will see Grace, me, Hernando, and other people, and Dr. Mariana in that situation. Now, I'd like to mention this uh, uh, quote here. This was actually in an article in The Guardian from Carlo Robello 2 days ago, October 26th. Okay. And this is basically what Dr. Mariano was kind of saying, that statistics is very important in society. Okay. Lack of complete knowledge does not mean that we know nothing. It is statistics, the powerful tool that guides us when we do not have complete knowledge, which is to say, virtually always. Especially during these COVID-19 days, we now know death rates, case rates, R numbers, and so on and so forth. When you look into that, underlying it is actually the field of statistics. Okay, and we are in a very important field. And I think that's the reason why I fell in love with statistics, because it deals with these philosophical issues of how you discover the truth, how you use partial or incomplete information to seek or gain knowledge about something. And this is one quote that I like when I was reading it the other day. Now, Lisa, how many minutes do I have?
Please continue, Edsel. I'll give you 5
okay.
more minutes.
5 more minutes. Okay, that's good. Okay, I just wanted to kind of mention here some concrete statistical problems that we have, just to illustrate to you simple things that I'm sure you have seen this before, but I just wanted to emphasize it. And maybe I'm just going to limit myself to 1 or 2 in this situation. So the first one is measuring the pulse of the people. Okay, now next week we have the most important election in America. And if you are following the news every day, there are these opinion polls. And if you are following actually where Trump and Biden are going, they're flying to Florida, Arizona, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and so on and so forth. And you say, why are they doing that? Because they're seeing something of where they are lagging or where they are leading. And the basic question, of course, now is who is winning the popular vote in the US presidential contest. Although I think that is not actually the right question, because in the United States, we have the electoral college. It's really state by state. That's the same problem that we have. And if you look at any newspaper these days, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, the 538 by Nate Silver, The Guardian, you'll see all of this. It's all about the election. And I think it's a very, very important election that affects the Philippines and all the other countries in the whole world. The other day from The Guardian, it said Biden is ahead of Trump by 9.5 percentage points. Okay, so that was the headline the other day. I don't know what it is today. I haven't checked because I was kind of busy about something. And so on 3 days ago, this is the plot that you would see in The Guardian. And this is basically a time tracking of the percentage of people who will vote for Biden, the blue one, and for Trump. And at this point, it seems that Biden is leading the popular vote than Trump, and there's a difference of 9.5 at the very end there. And I think that was 2 days ago. Okay. Now, I present that because that leads to the question, how do they determine that? Okay. And I mentioned here that the technology behind these polls is actually statistics. Let me explain. The total number of people, the total number of American voters is about 150 million people. Now, if you had read a newspaper, I think 70,000 already had voted. Okay, but 70 million people had voted already. 150 million people. That's a lot of people. That's, of course, more than the population of the Philippines. Now, you might say, how many people or what percent are sampled from this American electorate to make that conclusion that is given here? Okay, so Is it 10% of the population? Is it 20% of the population? Is it 1% of the population? And it turns out that no more than 2,000 voters are actually sampled on each of these polls out of these 150 million people. And of course, if you present this to a common ordinary people, they would say, how would you believe such a result if you are only taking 2,000 people out of 150 million people? And that's where statistics becomes very, very important. Okay, because when you think about 2,000 people, about out of 150 million people, that's only 0.0013%. Okay, a very minuscule proportion of the whole population. And the question is, are these results any good at all? Of course, it depends on the sampling process, but it allows us, statistics allows us to measure the pulse of the people, which is an important aspect in any democratic society. Now, let me illustrate this. And I'm sure that you have seen this in your math stat classes, or maybe even in your basic statistics classes, just to illustrate the idea of what we do as mathematical or statisticians. So you could imagine here, this collection of people, 150 million of them. These are the Trump people, these are the Biden people, and these are the undecided people. Okay? There's a certain proportion who will vote for Trump. We'll call that as theta T. There's a certain proportion that will vote for Biden. That's theta B. And there's a certain proportion that are still undecided. I'm going to call that as theta U. The sum of these thetas is equal to 1, the total proportion. What we are interested in this case is the difference between theta B and theta T. Is it positive? Is it negative? Okay, so that's what we are interested in. But we do not know these values because that pertains to the whole population. So how do we proceed in that situation? So this is where the sampling process comes in. You have this big population. We take this very small subset, let's say with N people, and out of these N people, you will see the Trump people there, the Biden people, and then the undecided. So you'll obtain the sample proportions, PT, PB, and PU. Those are the things that you could compute because you will observe these people, not the 150 million people, but maybe this 1,000 people, you will observe and you could compute that, okay? So that's a process that we have, okay? So how do we use these sample proportions then to obtain an inference about the difference of the two thetas? That is of interest to us. And the theory that involves here, and you have seen this from the central limit theorem in the binomial distribution, is that if you take this quantity Z, which is PB minus PT, those are the sample proportions, the difference, minus the truth, theta B minus theta T, these are the true proportions in the whole population. And then if you divide that by the standard deviation of this, okay, this is the expression of the standard deviation because we do not know theta U. Okay, so it changes a little bit. But if you do that, then it turns out that this variable will have a normal distribution, a standard normal, okay? In that case, we call as Gaussian or things. And in fact, earlier when we were doing a survey in that quiz that you did, everybody was guessing, so you remember that it came up to be normal. Okay, so that's the normal distribution that you had seen earlier. So you have this. And we know that for the normal distribution, between negative 1.96 and 1.96, you had 95% of the population or the values, okay? So because of that, then, you could say that you are 95% confident that this theta B minus theta T is in this particular interval. Say we call us the confidence interval, and this is the estimate of that true difference of the proportion. And this quantity is what we call as the margin of error, okay? The margin of error. It's actually an estimate of the margin of error, and you have 95% confidence, okay? So you could compute this, and then that will give you an interval for the difference between theta B and theta T. Now, what do you usually like to do that, just like what Grace was doing earlier about the NLE and EM or something? The thing is you try to bound the margin of error by something that you specify. It could be 0.03, 0.04, 0.05, 0.06, depending on the precision that you would like. So So you could try to do that, and you could try to determine the sample size that you require. So in this situation, if I bound the margin of error by D, I could say, what's the maximum value of the margin of error? And that's going to be this one, okay? And then you could equate this and then try to solve for the sample size. And when you do that, the sample size is going to be at least 1.96 square all over D squared. The D is the precision that you would. If D is equal to 0.06, then N is at least equal to 1068. That's the reason why in this situation, you only need about 1,000 or 2,000 people to get a good inference about difference, not 10% of the 150 million people. So this is the theory, the little theory that we have developed from statistics that tells us how to determine the sample size. So that's just an illustration in that case. Now, I'm not going to discuss anymore these two examples, but I just wanted to ask, to mention that another problem that we could try to deal with using statistics is, do we need to put masks on, or could we not put on masks? And in America, it has become a very political issue. Okay, so but that's a statistical problem. That's a societal problem that statistics could help in answering. Okay, so I don't want to do this anymore because of the shortage in time, so you could ask me questions. Thanks, but that's very similar actually to what Grace was mentioning about comparison of two things, testing hypotheses. Okay, so this is just the Fisher test actually. Okay, I will not go into detail there, but you could read it. Ryan could put this in the website. Okay, but this is just Fisher's test that allows you to make a decision whether to mask or not to mask. Okay, based on partial or incomplete information, sample data that you have. Another one that I wanted to mention here is the problem of predictive analytics, okay? Which is actually predicting the response based on certain predictors, okay? And this is a very important problem in data science, okay? But this is actually what we have been doing in regression, okay? Or in more complicated regression problems. But this is one problem that we statisticians deal with. It has become much more complicated now because in the olden days, there's only a few predictors that you have to deal with, okay? But nowadays, the number of predictors that you have is too big. It could be the number of genes, 23,000 genes. Or if you're dealing with brain images, you have millions and millions of pictures there, voxels, okay? So how do you deal with that to deal with that? So that's a very complicated problems now, and that's one of the problems that data scientists, machine learners deal with. Okay, I will not get to that anymore, okay? But there's a little theory here that leads you to basically an approximation problem where you could use neural nets or deep learners, or you could use nearest neighbor, for instance, to approximate the optimal predictor that you have. Okay, so I will not go into detail here, but there's some interesting problems there. And statistics still has so many interesting problems because the paradigm in the data sets are simply changing in a very fast way. Okay, so I wanted to discuss this, but let's not do that anymore. Okay. There's a notion of bias variance trade-off in statistics that you might have heard, and that is a very, very important concept in this aspect of prediction. Okay, so but okay, now this is actually the theory behind our COVID projection. Okay, so when we are trying to predict the number of deaths and daily deaths in COVID, this is for the US, and this is the prediction in the next 10 days. Okay, and for some reason it's increasing again. So it's kind of dangerous somehow because the data seems to be indicating that's going to increase again. I hope it doesn't, but it seems to be what you have here. Okay, And then this is the cumulative predictions. But a lot of this simply uses the principles of statistics, of predictive analytics in that case. Okay, so this is a paper that is currently under review that we had submitted, but it deals with this COVID prediction. Now, so I just want to conclude then that to the younger people, that a career in the statistical or data sciences is quite attractive. And to emphasize what Grace and Dr. Mariano had said, society is becoming very data centric, and decisions needs to be um, relying on data in that situation. So society is becoming data centric due to technology. There are many challenges, and the problems are becoming very dynamic. Okay, good job prospects. And so I think if you are looking for a career, okay, career in the statistical sciences or data sciences is a good one. Okay, so and I think I'm going to enter Lisa. Sorry for exceeding time a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edsel. I didn't want to stop you because you gave really very interesting insights to everyone. As expected, I found that the masters actually, I believe, excited us on how we can be as statisticians in society. So from Dr. Mariano's story of his journey as a statistician, he emphasized the role of mentors, influencers, people who give us advice and even force their advice on us. Also, serendipity, and I believe Edsel mentioned that too. Grab opportunities come by and you have to grab them. You know, you didn't look for those opportunities, but they came your way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then Grace illustrated to us the rigor of a research scientist, specifically a biostatistician. So you have a very important role in assuring that any result of research undergoes rigor. And that is really accountability of statisticians, that any advice we give out of our research goes through proper research processes. So accountability of conclusions that we present for society to consider. And that was again discussed by Edsel, talking about results of polls. Edsel, thank you so much for your very practical advice to our young statisticians. For me, the bottom line of this plenary is the important role that we statisticians have in society. Whatever expertise we choose, we are very relevant now. So I would like to open the floor for questions and for questions to our panelists. I see two questions already written on the chat box. I was given permission by our organizers to eat up on your coffee break, because we cannot let go of advice from our three masters. So before I read the Q&A in the chat box and call on those who want to ask their questions to our panelists, I have this particular question. I've listened to your journeys as statisticians. You are now masters. What is your advice to young statisticians on milestones? Is there a certain age where we have to decide where the road for us as statisticians should go?
I don't think so. Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying when always be a student. Okay. Whatever brings you happiness in life, that's where you go. Okay. I think Grace knows this. In my case, I went I work on many different fields. As I've said, when I came to the US, I wanted to be an expert in design of experiments. Pilino Lansigan was my professor in design of experiments and statistical computing. But I didn't realize that I love theory, the theoretical aspects of things. And that's where I said, this is where I'm going to. And I got more into survival analysis and biostatistics types of areas because that was a very hot area during the 1980s. And one of the things that I realized that the classical stuff that we learned from graduate school was not sufficient. So when I started teaching in Bowling Green, when I read the annals of statistics in JASA, all the papers were in this different framework, which we call as counting processes. This is the theory that was developed by Ad Allen, and then the Europeans developed this, a very theoretical area. But I wasn't an expert at all on it. I didn't understand it. So what I did is I said, I really need to invest time on this one. To learn this, I could write papers in this area. So I spent 2 years just reading in understanding this theory. And I think Grace might have been in Bowling Green already. I closeted myself in my office 4 hours a week just to study this on my own. And I became an expert on it, I think, wrote papers on it, and so on and so forth. And that was thanks. And then later I changed my area a little bit because you get interested in other things. And so you just follow what makes you feel good. Now, I think that's my advice. Don't get stuck with a very specific focus. Of course, some people do that. It's okay. But I think it depends on your personality too. I like to learn as many things as I could because that motivates me. Now I work on many other areas, foundations, data science, machine learning. But those things were not there when I started. So that's my advice to the young people. Just be a pioneer. Ask Dr. Mariano and Grace. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Edsel. May I call on Dr. Mariano first, and then I'll call on Grace to answer that question that I posed also to Edsel. Sir
Yes,
Bobby.
Yes, that's very interesting. That's an interesting question. Because from my experience, the younger I was, the better off I was in doing my PhD and finishing it up. But at the same time, it would have been nicer if I worked a little bit before I started doing my PhD studies to develop a better appreciation of, especially since I was interested in how I would apply my theoretical studies in real life applications, how this interface between theory and practice can take place. And over the years, I have seen people who are somewhat more advanced in age still going for their PhDs, but having problems with the time demands because of family responsibilities and others. So as Edsel was saying, it all depends on the individual. Some people will find it much easier to do what I did, which was just to go straight on and don't work until I got my PhD, apart from doing some RAs and TA ships in the university. But others will find it more productive and more fruitful, also depending on the kind of areas of expertise that you want to get into. What do you think, Grace?
Yes, Grace.
I absolutely agree with Dr. Mariano and Edsel. You know, I mean, in every aspect, and I mean, it's also it's your the timing differs for different people, and then the opportunities. You really can't tell, but I think it's just what's fun about this job is just the constant problems out there that have to do with data. There's so many different kinds, and so I think opening yourself up to those, I mean, it can lead you to different things. So, this area now called causal inference. It was
Mhm.
totally different frame of mind. So, I mean, the do operator was never there before when we were, it just started out when in the last few years, the do operator, that's how dynamic our field is. So I think the constant there is to keep on learning, just keep on looking, and then maybe you'll find your niche, maybe you'll stay there, who knows? But you
Yep.
know it's it's a very dynamic field. I think it's a very it's happy times for us.
Yes,
And that-
indeed, it's happy time. The problem is the area studies are so diverse. So I see in the chat box some questions related to choosing a particular research, maybe for thesis or dissertation. This is the usual struggle of graduate students or candidates earning their master's or PhD. Uh, may I know just quickly, like one or two statements from each of you on your advice to our young statisticians struggling with the research for their degrees?
yeah.
May I request Edsel to start again?
Yeah. Well, you're asking there the hardest problem actually, because the deciding on the research problem is the most difficult part of research. That's yeah. If you couldn't define the problem properly, then you'll never get started. So that's the most difficult part actually of research, and that's what you will be doing even after you finish. Because to keep doing research, you need to keep asking the right questions or the questions that you will be solving. Now, how do you start that? You usually start that by reading a lot. Don't rely on your advisor to give you your problem. And for my students, I encourage them to try to find their problem. I did that when I was a student. I solved my own problems. But of course, you ask the advisor and you say, what do you think about this? But the reason for that is if you kind of choose your own problem, you're what do you call that? You have a fit into it. You buy into it. While if you simply ask, say, Lisa to give you a problem, you're always going to be thinking that, oh, it's Lisa's problem. So somehow you don't get invested into it. But the moment you choose a problem, and you consult your advisor, of course, then that's when you do this consultation. But I think it's good to choose your own problem. Keep reading journal articles. That's what you need to do. And then be very critical. Always ask, is this right? Could I improve this? Don't take things for granted. As a researcher, you should always ask the question, could I improve this? That's always the way to do research. Okay, so
Thank,
that's my best
thank,
advice.
thank you so much, Edsel. Sir Bobby, my advisor.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question that you asked. And actually, when I was preparing my speech, I was talking about that. But then when I realized that I had to cut back on on my material, I took it out. In my case, it was pretty clear for me that I had to write a dissertation. My thesis topic had to be in econometrics. And at that junction in my studies, when I was looking for an advisor, the natural advisors that I was supposed to try all were not interested. Herman Chernoff, for whom I did some research assistantships before, said, I just finished doing an econometrics topic with Jay Cadane on small sigma asymptotics. And I'm sick and tired of econometric topics now. I'm not in the mood to do that. But if you want to work under me, you can work on multidimensional scaling. And if I had done that, I probably would have developed some techniques for doing Chernoff phases and all that. But it would have been completely unrelated, at least not directly or appreciated in a department of economics. I went to Ingram Malkin, and the same thing. His interest was in educational, in applications of multivariate analysis. Ingram Malkin, I also did some RA shit for him, but not econometrics. So that was out. Finally went to Kenneth Arrow in economics. And boy, he
Nobel
was
Prize
so
winner.
dynamic.
Nobel Prize winner.
He's based in the economics department, of course. Got a Nobel Prize also in economics. And he rather loved three problems in econometrics that he has been thinking about, he says. And he would be very happy if I were to work with him on any of those three topics. I was all set. I started reading up on the student's t distribution and all the fat tail properties of the distribution, etc., because that's what he was interested in. And then just before I could get underway with working with him, he calls me up and says, "Oh, I'm leaving Stanford for Harvard. Sorry." And there it was. I was left with no one. The T.W. Anderson's arrival in statistics was really very godsend for me in that sense, except that he was delayed by 1 year because he went to the London School of Economics to spend his sabbatical. And so that year, when I should have been working on my thesis, I ended up working on it, but it's like an independent, unguided, independent study. I just, as Edsel said, I just read and read and read. And whatever caught my fancy in terms of research material and articles that people were saying and talking about. And that's where I ended up with finite sample distribution. So again, the choice of a topic can be dictated by your job requirements or future job requirements that you expected to get into, but also can be very, very iffy, and you just have to be very open to what comes up and what catches your fancy.
Thank you, Sir Bobby. Grace, please.
Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, I would say that, you know, choosing a dissertation, I mean, in my case, it was like I was taking this course with a visiting professor from Russia, Fedorov. He's like a kind of like one of the sort of optimal design guys there, and you know, he had an open problem, and then I was, you know, it was in the course, and then I worked on it, and he said, "Do you want that? Do you want this as your thesis?" And then I said, "Okay." I've been at grad school for a long time now. And then I said, "Okay, I just gotta get a dissertation thesis." But you know, so I mean, it can go that way, but I mean, I think after that, it's like, you know, things open up. You know, things open up for you. You can stay on that, you know, as your area of expertise, but you know, again, open yourself up, because, and then now optimal design is coming back in my mind, because I'm seeing this. There's this application in pharmacokinetics that I'm seeing in my field, those finding studies, that is very, very important. So it will come back. You might leave it a little bit. You might never go back there again, but then you're gonna come back. A lot of it is serendipity, and you know, so you know, just figure out something. You're gonna figure out something in grad school, a dissertation topic that might not necessarily be the one you're gonna be working on throughout your career. It can totally change. You know?
And I should add, actually, Lisa, that your dissertation topic, the best advice that people have is after you do your dissertation, you're starting your career, do something different from your dissertation. So that's always a good advice. So in a sense, the process of doing your dissertation is really the learning how to do research. It's not the end. Okay, it's just a means. Okay, so because eventually, as we all have done, we are going to end up doing something different. So maybe your dissertation topic was not the best one. That's fine. You're learning to do research. You're learning the art of doing research, and that's the important thing about dissertations. And of course, if you have a great topic, then you'll get a lot of publications that helps you immediately. But it's not the end in itself. Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
and you,
much. I was told by the organizers that I can continue asking questions
You
because there are a
could.
number of questions in the
Yeah.
chat box,
Yeah.
and parallel sessions will actually start 11:20, I believe.
oh,
So
soon.
uh, I will just choose 3 more questions, one for each
Okay.
of you. So may I start with a question for Grace? The question, Grace, is, do we have any statistical tests to determine quality of information of a clinical trial, or it will be just based on the judgment of biostatisticians and clinicians?
The quality of a clinical trial, like a measure of the quality of a clinical trial.
Yes, I believe the
Is that the
question is about the
question?
quality of data, maybe data of a clinical trial.
Hmm.
But the way it's stated is quality of information of a clinical trial.
Maybe how much
Ah,
information that does the trial provide you or something. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the conduct of the study. I mean, it could be different things like conduct of the study. If there was missing data. There are many different types of issues that could come out with the data coming up
Right.
from a clinical trial,
I
or
think it's
any
about the
any
data.
study for that matter. Yeah. So there could be different kinds of potential issues, and then to measuring them. For example, missing data. How sensitive will your results be to different sort of assumptions of missing data? So it can tell you how robust your results are. So I
Right.
mean, there are different ways of assessing the quality of the data coming out. The quality of the design, the conduct of the design, it's very, very it's multi-pronged, many different aspects of it. That's why we have like monitoring bodies that actually monitor throughout the study, to make sure that we are up, we follow the protocol as much as possible as designed. But I mean, another aspect of quality of data is that did you have the right assumptions in your trial? Did you have the right assumptions when you design the trial? That's the most stressful part of designing a clinical trial. So there are many different ways of measuring how successful a trial is, multi-pronged. Uh, I hope that answers your question, but I think, I mean, it's a very important question. Very important question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Grace. Sir Bobby,
Yeah.
the question here that I see is about how can we communicate the right statistical information to people. And this is in the context of COVID-19 situation. So I believe this is about what Edsel touched on communicating appropriately. Any thoughts on how to communicate the right statistical information, especially to the public?
Well, I think it's very important to be able to, if you're presenting to the public some estimates of key parameters like incidence of contagion, expected, predicted death rates, and sensitive issues of that type. The report must be very careful in identifying the limitations of what the source is, for one thing, and a an indication of the precision of the estimates that are being given, what kind of margins of errors, as Edsel was talking about, are involved. Uh, the presidential race is pretty close in some states, and it's very important to find out just what the spreads are to be able to do that. There are claims and counterclaims about what's going on with COVID-19, the trials that are taking place in terms of the effectivity of the medication that's being developed, the vaccine that's being sorted out and tested. And so the design, the quality of the sample, and the precision of the resulting estimates have to be properly reported. And I think those are some of the key issues. There are some others that are really needed. The timing of the release of this information would also be very important, and motivations for the timing and whatever material is kept or released. So there has to be openness and candor
Yeah.
Thank you.
in the way these things are the reporting is done.
Thank you so much, Sir Bobby. And
Uh-huh.
my last question is to Edsel. This is a question, Edsel, about depth of curricular content. As mentioned earlier, statistics is so diverse. It encompasses a lot of different sectors, different topics. So if we are to develop our curriculum, how deep should be the curriculum for the different areas of statistics? So I'm actually rephrasing what I'm reading in the chat box. I hope I'm
Mhm.
correctly doing so.
I think
Edsel, please.
yeah, that's correct. There are so many things that we had to learn, so many topics, so many specialties, and so on and so forth. So there's like economics. There's always the question of choosing what needs to do, where to specialize. But I think it is important for statisticians, data scientists, to have also an understanding about the foundations. Why does things work? Okay. And we could only understand that through possibly the mathematics underlying the procedures. Without that, if we only train our students to do computations or to apply software to data, I think something is missing. I think it's important that we understand what makes these procedures work. Maybe sometimes not in the deepest manner, but I think we should train them to have that type of understanding. Actually, that's what I enjoy most doing. I mean, I understand something, then everything becomes clear to me, and I could only do it when I look into the mathematics of it, the technical aspects to it. It's very easy to put numbers into the computer, okay, because the programs are there. But sometimes I ask, are these programs really doing the things that it's supposed to do? Are they satisfying the assumptions that underlies the procedure? And if people who are applying statistical methods don't understand what makes these procedures work, then it's dangerous. And we get into this trouble that Dr. Marian is mentioning, where we report things or somebody reports statistical results, but they're not actually valid because the procedures that they used did not satisfy or they did not satisfy the properties or the conditions that makes them work. So I think it's important that we need to have that. Yeah, that will make us different from the typical people that uses statistics. That's why
we're statisticians because we understand the deeper aspects. So it's like lawyers. Why couldn't I do law by myself? Because I don't understand all the subtleties underlying law. In the same sense that why should, say, political scientists consult us? Because we think that the political scientist doesn't have a complete understanding or deeper understanding of things. So they should consult us because we know exactly the thing. And there's a certain danger there, but I think it's important that we kind of keep a hold on that. Otherwise, our field will break down somehow. Yeah, and that's true too for data scientists. I think data science is very algorithmic and as compared to statistics. But I think the foundations of data science needs to be looked at carefully. And we're still in the beginning stages of it. And people are actually starting to look into these foundations of deep learning or neural nets. There's a theory there that's not yet well developed. So, but and for the young people, those are areas actually that you could get into, and there's so many things to mine there, to determine there, to understand there, and I think that's a beautiful area. Yeah. So,
Thank you so much, Edsel. Sir Bobby, you want to add more?
Yeah, if I may add just a couple of remarks about the last question. I mean, going back to even more basic issues and reminding me of the theme of the conference about leaving no one or Juana behind.
Yes.
I think a basic issue is when do we start teaching statistical literacy to our students, to the young, and especially in the provinces? Greg Mankiw, famous economist, wrote a few years ago how statistical literacy is so important to be taught at an early age, rather than waiting until, in my case, I had to wait until graduate school. Why not teach it in the grade school? And Greg Mankiw went to the extreme of saying that it's more important to teach statistical literacy at that level, at that time, rather than too much time on basic algebra and trigonometry and geometry, which was going to be useless anyway, he said. But that's a little bit too extreme. But I think, together with that, making internet access in the provinces more available in this digital age, and where computing is so important, and people being and children, young students getting literacy in computers and in statistical analysis.
Thank
I
you
also
very
mentioned in my presentation, in developing curricula which do a balance of theory and practice in the courses. Courses in mathematics methods, in statistical methods, will be so much more alive if, in addition to theorem proving, which is necessary, there also is theorem applications.
yeah, yeah.
And balancing the theory and applied aspects of statistics. After all, statistics is supposed to be dealing with real life problems. I mean, I'm so used to teaching courses, quantitative courses in the business school and in economics, where quite a few people would really be worried about the bottom line. There are times when I would be trying to prove a theorem to convince my students that what I'm presenting to them is really correct. And not only that, to teach them how to do the rigor approach to arguing a proposition. The question that I would get asked is, well, what is in it for me? What's the bottom line here? But the point is, you've got to have proper mix of theory and practice in the curriculum.
Completely agree.
So I just wanted
Thank you.
to say that.
Thank you so much. Wise words, Sir Bobby. And your question on how about starting young, starting statistical literacy young. So we throw it again to our Philippine Statistical Association Incorporated, where all of us are, almost all of us are members. I guess that's the question that has been promoted and has been answered under the former presidents of the association. I guess it's the right time now to go back to it, given that
Remind them.
our young are being instructed digitally. So I would like to request the organizers to bring that out as one outcome of this plenary, asking that question, but specifically to our association that has actually started the statistical literacy. Thank you, Sir Bobby. At this point, I would like to apologize to those who wrote in the question and answer chat box. I will not be able to answer I will not be able to pose those questions to the plenary speakers, but I believe the organizers will be able to answer them because some of them are very specific. I just want to discuss all of this more in my mind, more policy level questions that we need to discuss with our masters. So
Or
at
they
this
could
point,
send email too. They could send us email if
yes,
they have any questions. Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so I
And
will so those who wrote their questions in the chat box, our panelists will help answer those questions, but the organizers will take the lead. Thank you so much. At this point, I would like to thank our three panelists. Such wisdom, rich wisdom here. We wish we could stay more and listen to you. But we also have other sessions that I know the audience will want
Yes.
to go
Yeah.
to. And
Yep,
so at
yep.
this point, there will be a certificate of appreciation that will be emailed to our panelists, and they will be signed by our heads of the organizing institutions.
We got it already.
We,
You have
the-
them
the-
already.
I just got
Oh,
it. It was just sent to me.
so
But at the same time, they said they're going to send a basket of a gift basket.
oh, I didn't know
And,
that.
please don't send the gift basket to my office address because I haven't been to my office since March.
That's
I don't
true.
expect to be able to go to my office in Philadelphia in the near future. Send it to my home address.
Sige po, Sir Bobby.
Umuo na sa Sir Lance.
Okay. I was just reading the message and I couldn't answer because I don't know how to answer.
Thank you so much. So at this
Okay.
point, we have another exciting part of the plenary, which is picture taking.
Oh,
So
okay.
I request everyone who are still with us, I know we still have 213 people. Please turn on your video, but still stay muted. And the organizers will take our picture.
Okay.
Big smile. So, Sir Lance, mag-smile na ba kami lahat?
Let's wait for the cue of Bea, ma'am. But
Kaya, oo. Kasi kung minsan,
Opo.
nakakapagod ang tagal na smile.
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, ma'am, only the panelists video feed or camera can be
Okay.
Yeah,
Sige
because it's
po.
a webinar.
Kaya, we listen to you.
Hi, okay po. Sige po. Smile po tayo. 1, 2, 3. One more. Isa pa po. Sandali lang po. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, thank you po.
Nice seeing you, Grace and Dr. Mariana.
Wow,
Yeah,
thank you
it's
so
a
much,
good
Sir Bobby,
Yes,
Grace,
Dr.
and
Mariana.
Edsel.
It's a good.
Yeah, we
Lisa
all hope to
Grace.
meet
Good
in
girl
person
and
This was
someday.
fun.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I formally
Yeah.
Okay,
end the
Lisa.
first plenary. Great thanks to our masters. And we have before us the parallel sessions and the link to go to these sessions with the corresponding password.
Okay.
We also
Have a good day, everyone. Thank
we
you
also
to the
thank you, ma'am.
organizers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
We
you,
also like to
Edsel,
acknowledge Dr. Bersales
Grace.
for being our
Yep, yep.
session
Thanks,
moderator.
Lisa.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
So now we see the links and the passwords to the different parallel sessions that we will have today. So you can choose between the three sessions. Again, it will be in a first come, first serve basis. You could also grab some snacks or stretch for a while. See you in our parallel sessions.
The end.
Sir Lance?
Yes, I.
I-open lang po natin tong session po, di ba?
Yeah, I'll leave it open lang.
Okay po.
We're not able to remind them yung sa wrap-up at 11:45. So, paano yan?
Each moderator na lang po yung sasabihan. And I think, sir, hindi magpo-push through yung 11:45.
Yeah, so we have to adjust na. So, what's our call? 12 o'clock?
Pwede po ba na yung mga session moderators na lang yung mag-wrap up?
Sure.
Tapos po, ipa-play na lang po natin yung video tomorrow.
Okay. Yung gawa ni Ivan.
Opo.
Yeah.
Sir, hindi na po kayo aabot ng mga 12:30, no?
Will, is that you?
Yes, yes, sir.
Wait lang, sorry. Meron bang way na stop broadcasting na?
Pag naka-broadcast na po
Panelist na.
tayo, hindi na po pwedeng bumalik sa practice.
Alright. Yeah, hindi naman naabot. We're actually good. And then so let's decide na. No need to tell the participants to go back to this main Zoom webinar.
Ipa-announce ko na lang po sa bawat moderator na na sila na lang po yung i-cancel na lang po natin yung wrap-up session, sir. For tomorrow na lang po siya sa awarding.
Sure.
Kasi po, extended po yung mga parallel sessions, so aabot po sila ng lunch.
Yeah, agree. Okay.
Apo. So, pwede naman pong iwanang bukas lang po dito tapos may announcement lang po na no more wrap-up session. Papa-announce ko na lang din po sa bawat po.
No, I think okay na. Although meron pang participants na nagtatanong for the link and password. So let's wait until 12 noon siguro na naka-flash.
Bukas to. Opo. Tsaka sir, pwede po kaya sa baba, no more wrap-up session?
Sure, I'll do that. So, yeah. Will?
Yes, sir.
So, okay lang. So, yun na. We can end this Zoom webinar for today at around 12 noon.
All right. No
Bukas
problem.
na ulit yung next na session namin at 8:30.
Alright. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Will.
No problem.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, I. I'll
Thank
see
you
you
po.
in the session. Stay lang ako for a few minutes here.
Yes, sir. Lipat na po ako.
Yeah. Thank you. Will, we're good. Thank you very much. I'll end the session. Thank you, UPCC.